Went to closed session where will convene a closed meeting as authorized by Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551 for possible. Pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding legal issues concerning process for filling superintendent position and his selection of search team. If a closed session item requires action, the board shall take such action upon reconvening an open session, 551.102. A certified agenda of closed session is maintained, 551.103, and items are posted and disclosed according with the law, 551.104. It is 6:31 p.m. November the 1st, 2021, in closed session.
Agree?
You're agreed. All right, it is 6:48 p.m., November the 1st, 2021. We're back in open session. And at this time, would anyone like to entertain a motion to proceed with looking for superintendent search firms?
Yes, sir. I would like to move that we proceed for a superintendent search firm. And I also, with a motion, move that we appoint the president, Mr. Mostella, to help us by him doing a lot of the legwork and contacting firms and what have you, and then bringing us the information so we can make an intelligent decision on what we're going to do.
Thank you, Felix. Do we have a second, please?
I'll second
Kim,
that motion.
second. Any other comments or questions? Okay. I hope to have this all prepared and hopefully by our November 15th meeting. Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Now, one of the main things is we have some distinguished guests here to help us with our team building. And from all the information that was sent out in the board book, there's a lot of material to cover.
Yes.
What do you mean I'm still covering it?
There was a lot of information.
He brought back ugly memories.
But anyway, Ms. Sequoia, please.
Well, welcome, everyone. We're going to go through several activities this evening. And I want to start off with our ground rules, and R stands for respect. That means respect each other's opinions. U, understand that we are all different. We have different opinions, and it's okay. We're not all alike. L stands for listen to others. E stands for expect excellence. And S means show up on time and participate, because I do have an activity for you. The first one that I want to talk about tonight is on a PowerPoint, closing the gap by reviewing generational groups. And how I got started researching this topic was that I had teachers coming up to me in another district saying, what is wrong with these kids? They're not like the way I was raised. They're not the way I raised my kids. Or someone would say, well, I have my grandkids and I just don't understand what they're even talking about. They've got the technology and they have all these smarts about things, and I'm a little confused. And so when we started looking at generational groups and saying what is wrong with these kids, we did maybe look at what's right with these kids and figure out how we're going to teach them and work with them, because it's different than the way we were all raised. So our objectives tonight are the learner, and you're the learners. We'll be able to identify generational groups, draw conclusions when comparing groups, increase understanding of age group differences, attempt to answer the question, what is wrong with these kids, and discuss how to build a team of 8 when we are not all alike ourselves. So what is a generation? A generation is a group of people born at the same time and raised around the same place. Generational understanding, we are each a member of a generational cohort because we were raised in a certain time. We tend to carry out culturally influenced perspectives from that time, and it's not our fault. We just happen to end up in that particular group. This generational understanding is based on generational research. There's several books on it. They study data and trends that are typical and normative traits. It doesn't perfectly describe everyone, and there are major transitions between generations, and a starting place and language for helping to understand others. Now, I will tell you, when I started this research, I did it with a staff development, which lasted over an hour, and then I did it with my ladies' prayer group at church, and it lasted 4 hours. But we're not going to do the 4-hour version. We're going to do a much shorter version. But I need your help. So I want you to think about what year you were born. And I want you to move to the table and group yourself according to the years you were born. And we're going to do an activity at the table.
What's the table going to
Which table's which?
Which is my
It
table?
just doesn't make any difference.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
You
was gonna say, you
determined.
got one table, right?
I got one table somewhere.
No, we're all, you were born, what year were you born?
Well, I'm 65 to 79.
Must be 79,
And I'm
right?
not telling you where I'm at. We were 50.
Okay? This is our little worksheet.
That's when we were born, so
No, I wasn't born.
All right, she's 65 to 79.
Oh, I've slept since then.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
'cause
you-
Well, then you're.
68.
46 to 64, Jesus Christ.
Couldn't
Couldn't you have moved me to 65 or
I'll sit
something?
next to you. Or you
All
want me
right.
to sit across from you?
No, you're good. Oh,
You need one sheet of paper.
Oh, one sheet of paper?
We're cutting back on our paper usage. It's one sheet of paper per table.
I was holding my pen.
District saving money now.
I know,
All the open forms to the right of me.
I'm gonna put it like that.
Sit with Jan.
Sit with us.
Do you think she has some in here?
Look at markers.
Markers.
Where's my table?
Okay, what year are we looking at? What age range?
1905?
No.
That's the 1900s right there.
64, 65, 66?
All those years sound good, but try 41.
41. Okay, you're at a table by yourself, I
Yes.
think.
Yes.
I'll sit with you. You want to come over here?
Okay.
Okay, and everybody has one sheet of paper. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask our distinguished people in the audience if they would join the table where they are, so that we have a little more participation. You figure out your years. What years?
So you want a partner, Mr. Landine?
Come on.
That would be good. Thank you. Okay?
You're the only one I listen to.
All right. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to write at the top the years of your generation group. I'm going to tell you later what the title is. But find a pencil in the supply box.
He doesn't have a sheet.
It's one sheet per table.
Oh,
Okay. Now,
I guess it's
thinking about your generation, mainly like when you were a teenager or you were in your young 20s, what are some things that you had in common? So like number one, what was the music you listened to? Go back. What was the music you listened to? The dances or the singers? Just write it out there. And spelling doesn't count. So what were some of the music, dances, and singers?
2 generations. I used to listen to Selena's father.
Okay.
But no, we can English talk.
Okay, so. We had country singers. I don't know what you listen to, that's what I don't know.
I was
And then you go on and fill out the rest of the sheet. What movies and movie stars did you have when you were growing up?
Yeah.
I listened to
69.
this is all 70.
I didn't go to
Yes.
Trust me, I didn't get to the movies till I was 8, the 80s, when I was in high school.
And
Was that between this year though?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, because I was only 3.
Yeah.
Those are just the years you're born. And what, those are just the years you're born, and whatever you listen to is whatever you listen to in your life.
Oh, okay,
So,
I got it.
okay, so, some other countries, people.
We're talking about when he
60s, 50s?
several years ago.
Historic events, politics, president.
First minimum.
What other country, yeah.
Would your dad?
Well, no, that was, they
I wrote back with names.
Like on family members, what do you
Figure it
want?
out real quick, but,
Yeah,
okay, so
because
movies.
Movies.
First man on the moon,
Movies that you,
plus the
Grease.
first.
Grease, okay.
Top Gun.
Where it says family members, what?
Okay. How many kids were in the family? Did mom work at home or did she work, did she have a job? Like, did grandma live in the house? What was your family like?
Kennedy was assessed.
Dad, big brothers.
I don't even know who I was that year.
Movie stars on terrible movies.
50s.
Clint Eastwood.
There you go.
Jobs, careers to reach.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Those are about the only ones.
What was pushed in your generation? What job?
Spell.
Oh, who would know how to spell that?
Do it yourself?
When we were self-employed.
Okay.
We didn't have.
Do it. It's
Okay, that's
self-employed.
That's good.
Entrepreneurship,
Who was the guy in Top Gun? What was his name? Tom Cruise.
farming, ranching.
Careers to reach.
Makes it
My dad was he was a certified millionaire in 1968.
Oh, we know the historical events.
Back then, they're certified.
Okay, really?
Back then. You have to get a certificate from the state of Texas when you filed your
Ronald
taxes.
Reagan.
When you were
Ah, because that had to do with taxes.
Yeah, had to do with taxes.
Interesting.
Reagan was president.
Popular social events. Well,
The draft.
They shoveled it up.
That's what I was thinking too.
Big one that occurred.
Draft.
Remember what was on the news?
You were too little for Woodstock.
well, I didn't,
Space
we
shuttle.
didn't watch much TV. We were either working or at the ranch working.
Popular social issues.
But see, that's important because your generation did stuff like that.
We did.
That's important.
Vietnam was
Other things.
Free love.
served under Vietnam.
Flower power.
You usually remember the negatives.
I know, that's why I said, is there
Yeah.
any positive?
66.
Social issues.
Reagan, we had tax cuts. But that's some people think that's different. So
Not until the high school, I was in high school, so it was like 86, it was a Tandy computer, so it
Everything
wasn't.
was for freedom and peace.
The phone was a wired phone in the kitchen with a long cord.
Remember?
Yeah, always important. I think as a teenager.
Late twenties. I see one is like late twenties, early thirties.
My dad had a saying because we had a dance group.
Princess
So
Telephone.
Friday, Saturday, and Sundays I had to work.
Sleep that
And I
was.
would say, chinga dad, I'm missing the quinceañera, I'm missing this party. He goes, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
With money in your pocket,
Short cord on it.
you can make any Monday on a Saturday night.
I'm trying to think
And
of
boy, he was
country
right.
can't state.
Monday afternoons, man, I tell my friends, hey, I'm gonna load the pickup, we're gonna go to the movies, I wanna buy chicken, I wanna buy beer, no, man, my truck was loaded. There was no,
There's a lot of truth to that.
yeah, he said, con dinero en la bolsa, you make any Monday a Saturday
Yeah,
night.
that's right.
He was true, he was right.
Your mom's
What was yours?
I never rebelled.
Then with the
Yeah,
60s.
it was.
I had 3 older brothers.
Good job.
breaking through from their food.
At least you had a curfew.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, are they
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about us or our
11
parents?
Silent generation.
It just says family members, it didn't say just parents.
Is this, are we supposed to talk about childhood or now or when or what?
No, when you were a kid growing up.
When you were a kid
You
growing
had a
up.
mother, you had a daddy,
Okay,
and you had you knew who your grandparents were.
okay.
You lived in the same town
Yeah.
that everybody else lived in.
What's called the greatest generation of kids that was born in fought in World War II. They're still called the greatest generation.
Fast cars.
Because they did, they got involved with everything. Those kids got up early in the morning.
Your grandmas, both of them were secretaries.
Cows and everything else.
Your grandfather.
My grandfather was electrician / farmer also.
There you go.
My grandma was mother of 14, so
I think that's important.
I don't think
so
you
I'm gonna put that.
think you have any other thing to do.
You're a little busy.
Halfway through.
Okay.
Jobs,
We're
careers,
doing the
dreams.
50s, which is a little tougher.
Yes,
For you.
because
a little bit.
it focused around family.
Right.
Yeah, back then it did, a lot of it did.
So that's
We're
what
just
you-
talking about the greatest generation that was born, the kids back then.
Started off as a lifeguard.
So put the greatest generation
That's,
and
that's
coming out of World War II,
that's kind of the topic we're on right now.
okay?
Put it on.
Yeah, write that in.
The greatest generation.
What do you think?
I think so.
Okay.
So I was a waiter.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Korea.
Two weeks. Two, right?
I think so.
Staying out too late.
Okay. And
Make Goose Egg
Yeah,
supposed to
you
be
for number 4, for occupations, you said farming, working on the farm and working around the house.
used to have a thing that they used to say back in the old days.
Generally.
Just say no. But they don't say that anymore.
Ranching.
That was the Barbara Bush thing.
Yes, it was.
They've changed that, I think.
Just say no.
What other social issues?
Technology I had was an abacus.
Abacus. You're not that old.
I was gonna say, like,
Was the best generation,
What
the
was
best
it?
music.
I would just say no. Say no to drugs.
Yeah.
And the other one was, is your brain on drugs? They had a,
Did you get
The
your
frying pan.
they had a Friday thing.
Not yet, I have it on a flash drive. I don't know if you
Truck
want-
drivers came
I
out.
don't know if you want me to put it on the screen or just,
Yeah, I'll just put it here. so
Before that,
we
you were allowed to drink your
Get
drugs.
it going.
well,
So, of
use
course.
answerable letters on it, so
Yes.
that's okay, we'll just.
What was the 5-week deliverance?
No, that was later, that was in.
As soon as she's done, we'll get it.
When are you supposed to start? Cable. I didn't grow up with cable.
Growing up, I really didn't do music or anything like that because we were at the farm and our parents were really protective of us.
Party phone lines.
But I remember being at grandma's house in Heavenville, it was
we
like
can look at that one right there. That's
Ricardo or Dizzy or Nez did a performance.
In high school.
I didn't start listening to music really till high school, till like the 80s.
Apple computers at school got Apple.
Well,
Your CPUs were,
the next question is.
monitors were
about
huge.
family.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what the school got.
We
The
put down
Apple
farming and ranching as part of just
square.
helping around the house
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and just
yeah.
being a part of that.
And then kids had chores.
Mhm.
Couldn't do anything, but, those were regular phones, so, okay, third-party lines, we both had third-party lines, so that's good. Okay, so what's the next thing?
Silent generation.
We had a bank,
You remember the silent
cell
generation?
phone,
Car?
Car,
Wasn't that the
the
protest?
first ones.
No, the silent was before baby boomers.
they want to wear makeup.
So what were some social issues?
Different nowadays.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember
Okay.
because we got. my
And you didn't
parents
have
one 'cause they would go to the
TV that
ranch.
much? TV didn't have, wasn't
Just in case
constantly
of
I don't think
reminding
so.
you? right?
I didn't watch TV until 19.
Oh, yeah, we are eggs.
Huh? Yeah, we are. I thought we were eggs.
John drags in, goes straight to the pizza.
Me?
So on
76.
what technology was used? The TV, 1953? And what kind of telephone?
So you graduated 69?
Rotary.
Huh?
Rotary.
January 1st.
January 1st?
Get a day off.
But it was
We have eggs.
those that, they still, you still see them on movies, you know. I'm trying to think of it.
The antennas.
Going to
And a
ski
lot of
right.
it.
No, they were.
I wore makeup, got in trouble.
You have the co-op phones, Damian? Did you have the co-op
No,
phone
we
where
didn't.
a couple of neighbors
We were
had
rich.
Party
party lines?
Where when you were on, if someone else was on, you could hear what they were saying.
Try to pick it up and just.
No, we had
This is
the
quietly.
Oh, man, that party, I hated that. When our phone would ring in my house, because we were three boys, the whole neighborhood was on the telephone,
There was no rebellion.
listening to our conversation. It was interesting.
I did it at the skating rink and my dad came early to pick me up and found me with it on.
Yeah, you rebel at home, you get a strap to your back. Not doing that.
Okay, other comments.
And some people would call us and they wanted us to sing a song or something, and then the whole neighborhood was listening. Hey, it's the Landon boys, they're singing, listen.
It's in school and at home.
It was fun.
Okay, we have about 3 more minutes to finish up, and then we're gonna report out.
What do we do?
Kind of stuck on 5 a little bit with jobs and careers. Jobs and careers. We kind of talked a little bit about blue collar, but nothing specific.
Teachers, administrators, teachers, administrators, school and not the parent.
Like factory work.
One day you come up for
People would work with their hands.
Chris, if you want a partner.
Farm labor. Put farm labor and go on to the next one here.
What year were you born?
What year were you born?
65. Over there.
Where's the 65
Oh,
table?
over here.
Over here.
About popular social issues.
Yeah.
Just
How
on
are
the
ya?
edge there.
How are you?
Country. What's it called then? Slow
Welcome, sir.
rock.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Is that what it's called?
Filling out a little paper,
Yeah.
Okay.
so.
Freedom, autonomy,
So we're going to list real
individuality.
quick, we need to see what music.
Music, dances, or singers?
So like
While you were growing up,
expression,
when you were little.
self-expression.
What were your favorites?
Probably music.
Name it could be and.
Name.
Journey.
Oh, yeah, Journey. I like Journey.
He's one of those people who knows, he knows all the singers
Some
too.
teachers tell me that.
Okay.
What about movies or movie stars?
He's good.
We already have that
I
one.
got that one.
Okay, movies.
Because I had a strict mother.
Of course, does it change within genders?
We watched that one recently,
They need
yeah.
to go to dances,
Jamie Lee
yeah.
Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. She's in that, she's also in Alien, so all kinds of movies like that. She was a big time girl actor back then.
What was her first name?
Jamie Lee Curtis?
I won't tell you what I was putting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, what about historical events, politics, or president?
The Berlin Wall came down.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, I got another great historical event that makes me, Bruce Jenner was a man.
Yeah. Jennifer, that's right.
He was on
I'm not-
the cereal box.
He was on the Wheaties cereal box. That was the Olympic.
Oh, my gosh.
That could be the, I'm gonna go with that historical event, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, what's her name, Catelyn, or what's her real name, what's her name? She was an Olympic winner.
Thank God. Would it be like Bruce Jenner one day?
What do y'all want me to say? Bruce Jenner was an Olympian, or what's on there?
Is that the Ouija spot? The Cheerios, I don't know which one, I think it's.
It was sweet.
All right, we need to stop because we don't have time for the 4-hour presentation tonight.
All right.
But I think y'all have done really well with going back to when you were a teenager, when you were a kid. Okay, I have the birth years and the generations on the board for you now. And we're going to report out according to the years. I don't think we have anybody that was born from 1900 to 1924. That would have been World War I, and don't point fingers at others. That would have been World War I and some very different rules back then.
I didn't point with John, you know, John. Automatically, go ahead.
Okay, the silent generation, the traditionalists, 1925 to 1945, that's a huge span.
When did they start naming generations? Do you know?
I don't know.
What's the question?
Because that wasn't
So
a thing.
is your table a silent generation?
I think so.
Okay, so can you go through your list and tell us what y'all wrote? And the rest of us are going to listen.
You have the honor.
From the silent generation. For number 1, music, dances, singers, we wrote Elvis Presley. And then that took us to movies and movie stars, of course, John Wayne. And then from there, we talked about just generations and kind of just trying to understand the time and the periods. And then we, discussed greatest generation for the historical event and the politics of that period. As far as family members and occupations, we talked a lot about labor and farming and ranching, just working with your hands and being around the house and helping your family. As far as jobs, kind of along those same lines, just a lot of labor and blue collar work. Popular social issues. Mr. Landine was really talking up his individuality and self-expression at the time, so if you want to share a story or two, go for it.
Get it started.
We'll go to number 7. Technology for computers and phones. Mr. Landine shared that he didn't start watching TV until 1953. As he was using his rotary phone and joining the party lines in the neighborhood.
Yes.
And then for number 8, what was important to you as a teenager? Well, I'll let you share that word out.
Which one?
Right here, number 8.
There can be nothing else. Girls. Girls. What can I tell you? I'm out of words.
And then, of course, number 9, how did you rebel? Well,
We had 2 fists. We still have 2 fists. And we still use them once in a while. That's
Okay,
how we rebelled.
okay. Let's give him a hand. Okay, let's go to 1946 to 64. We have World War II and the boys coming home from the war and having more babies. So that group was called the baby boomers.
Best generation.
Tell us about the baby boomers.
I'll do one, you do one.
Okay.
Okay, so number 1, the music, dances, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Rolling Stones, Patsy Cline, and the dance was the twist and slow dancing.
Okay, and movies, I didn't get to see many of those, but with The Godfather, of course, movie stars, John Wayne, well, The African Queen was one I remember seeing. Aubrey Hepburn, she was in that. Gene Autry and Roy Rogers, some of the actors.
Historical, First Man on the Moon, I think John Glenn, and there was the Kent State. Our presidents that I remember were Kennedy that was assassinated, Eisenhower, Nixon, and Johnson.
And family members, both our mothers were housewives, stayed at home, worked, took care of his kids. Jan's dad was a truck driver, and my dad was an educator.
Jobs that careers to reach were the draft for the guys. I guess if you want to call it a career, they That's where they
Drafted
went.
to Vietnam?
Yes, Vietnam, oil field, education, and nursing was just beginning.
Popular social issues, there's hippies, free love, flower power, freedom and peace, things like that. Those some of the things, and demonstration against Vietnam War, and against anything that was out of the ordinary.
Technology, we watched black and white TV, probably about the year Mr. Landine did.
Yeah, about the same time.
There was only one in the house, if I remember, and one channel or two channels. We had party line telephone with rotary dial. We did have the little princess if your mom thought you deserved one. Otherwise, it was a black big old phone.
Yeah. The party lines are the best part, huh?
Yes.
Nevaeh, what was important to you as a teenager? One of them was athletics and boys.
That's mine.
Okay. Mine was hunting, fishing, fast cars, working on cars, rebuilding cars and engines, and drag racing, and girls.
How did you rebel? Breaking curfew and moody, pouting.
And
Go to your room and not eat, punish yourself, but you think you're punishing your mom.
tried limited back talking, which didn't work, so I stopped that.
Okay, very good. A round of applause for baby boomer. Generation X, 1965 to 1979.
Well, I didn't know what age, so I'm 64 also, so I
Okay,
should have been, but it's okay.
Oh, no,
That'll
say
work.
it, say yours.
okay, tell us about your list.
Well, on the music and dances, I grew up listening to Tejano music, and we owned a couples-only dance hall, so that's where I grew up. So, and then my favorite musician was Roberto Pulido ever since I was a kid. I still listen to him. On the movies, I used to, there wasn't a lot of movies I liked, but I would like to watch like I Love Lucy, Bewitched, Gunsmoke. I didn't have a choice on Gunsmoke. My grandfather lived with us, so that's what we were gonna watch. He chose. The historical events, like I said, he controlled the TV, so I remember it was Nixon when he got, kicked out, and the thing, that's what I remember the most about on the presidents. Family members, I had my dad, my mom, 3 brothers. I was the youngest of 4 brothers, so all I remember is working. That's what we lived for. It was like, you wake up, you go to work. In 1950, my parents got married in 1952, and early in 1953, they opened up their first business together, and they never looked back. It's always been a self-employed family since then. So the jobs and career, also, whatever they had going, that's what we did. We had convenience stores. Then my dad in the late 50s had an egg company, and he actually had the Army Depot and all these. He had which I don't know if it was how it was labeled back then, but Corpus Christi ISD. He would sell them eggs and stuff. But then in 1960, the USDA came in and regulated the egg companies, and CCA company was able to get a loan from Citizens Bank on Leopard. I think it was Citizens Bank. And my dad was denied, so that put us out of the egg business, even though we were twice as big as CCA company back in the 50s. But he kept going. He opened up mattress companies, and then in the middle 80s, we got into broadcasting, and that's when we started buying our radio and TV stations. So popular social issues was working, and then he got into buying ranches, so we had to build cross fences, and he didn't believe in tractors. He believed in his 4 boys digging holes, so that's what we did. When I was 15 years old, I remember counting that my brother, who was 3 years older than me, and I we dug over 1,800 holes that summer between my 9th grade and my 10th grade year. So when I went back to school, I was so big that the coach said, "You're on steroids." I said, "No, go to my ranch and I'll show you the fence. That's my steroids for the summer." So it was all about, doing things with my family and stuff. Technology, I remember my dad was blind the last 20 years of his life, so completely blind, he couldn't see nothing. So my mom would drive him to the ranch because he wanted to go to the ranch every other day. And I remember the technology back then was that big old bag cell phone. So the brothers, we made sure they had one because it was still a 45-minute drive. And, and so that was the technology that I remember us using and stuff. And it says, what was important to you as a teenager? And I was just telling this gentleman the story that since we had these, I call them event centers now, but these dance halls, I couldn't go to the parties Friday, Saturday, and not even Sundays because I had to work. And it wasn't an option at my house. This is what we did. Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, we worked. So I would tell my dad, I'm missing all the quinceañeras, I'm missing all the parties, I'm missing this, I'm missing all the girlfriends. I mean, I could never have a girlfriend because everybody would steal them from me because they were at the parties. So, but my dad taught me a lesson. He said, son, with money in your pocket, you can make any Monday a Saturday night. And I'll tell you one thing, every Monday night we were at the Thunderbird Drive-In and I had like 20 guys with me because I had the fried chicken, I had the sodas, if you want to call them sodas, and I had, all the fun. Yeah, it was very,
That's what we called them.
So I had the money, so I had the group. So he was right, every Monday night or any day of the week, it's a Saturday night if you have money. So, and then it says, how did you rebel? I don't remember rebelling. Like I said, I was the youngest of 4 brothers. If I did, I'd get clobbered on the head, because my oldest brother was 6'4", and he was a 300-pound man, and his pride and joy was my mother. So if we rebelled, any of the other 3, he knocked the crap out of us. So I don't remember rebelling. I did start drinking younger than I would have liked to have. Now that I see it, I have an 18-year-old boy, and he's never touched alcohol. And by the time I was 18, I had my own little Aisha's ready to go. But it was a different era, But
Exactly.
so I don't remember that. But on the other comments I did put, I grew up in a very strong business family, and we had to work hard, and that's what I remember of my childhood.
Let's give applause. Thank you. Okay, now we go to Generation X from 1965 to 79.
That would be us.
Okay?
I guess I'm doing this.
You can do some of it?
Music, dances, and singers. We're real heavy at the top. George Strait, YouTube, Garth Brooks, Don Williams, Journey, country music, slow rock, and rock and roll. Movies, Grease, Top Gun, The Matrix, Halloween, breakdancing, Star Wars, E.T., Clint Eastwood, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Cruise, and Jamie Lee Curtis. Historical events, politics and presidents, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, space shuttle explosion, tax cuts, 9/11, Berlin Wall, and Bruce Jenner being an Olympian. Got thrown in there at the end.
Wonder who that was.
Family members and occupations, dental hygienist, professor, safety manager, electrician, farmer, secretary, farmer, engineer, county commissioner, and mother of 14. The jobs and careers to reach, we kind of went on individual, which was lifeguard to medical dosimetrist and waiter to self-employed. Popular social issues, Just Say No and Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. Do you want to do some of these?
Where are we? Okay.
Technology.
So, technology. She got cable at her house. Did you have cable at your house?
No.
I only got one channel,
Yeah.
Showtime.
So I didn't have cable at my house. We both had third-party lines. Did you have a third-party line or did you have a regular phone?
Regular phone.
See, he was in the fancy city folk. Somebody had a pager. You had a pager?
I got a pager.
Okay, I didn't have a pager, and I didn't have a cell phone or any of that stuff either. Okay, so the next thing, what's important to you as a teenager? I answered car, she's wearing makeup and going to the skating rink. We didn't get one for you yet. What's important when you're a teenager?
Now I'm on the spot. You see, I was answering them real quick.
Oh, you were
I'm gonna pass.
You're gonna pass it? Okay, how did you rebel? She said she wore makeup. I didn't wear my shirt tucked in. I know it's school rules and policy, but I'm just telling you, I didn't wear it. So, did you rebel at all? Not John?
Not me.
Sweet
I look
angel.
like a rebellion.
Yeah, John's a sweet angel, so that's good to go. Other comments, corporate punishment at home and at school. So,
Same.
Okay, so we don't have any millennials? Our new silent generation? Oh, we have
I would
a,
technically be one if you wanted to categorize me as that.
Okay.
Given the years. Do I have the
you
answer?
wanna, yes, you wanna go through the list?
can you give us a couple of them?
Off the top of my head, music. Okay, I was born in 1985, so 80s and 90s music was huge, like grunge, rock, kind of like Pearl Jam and just Seattle type music was real popular growing up. Movies, gosh, anything with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, like Die Hard. Those types of movies, like action films, I remember those pretty well. Historical events and politics. Didn't really pay too much attention to any of that growing up, to be honest with you, but I do remember like the Bill Clinton era and Monica Lewinsky and just all that, being my mom watching that 24/7 coming home and just being like, okay, there's no updates, but that's still on TV, just kind of more of the same.
Dr. Ward, you have to remember OJ. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. Throw that one in. Family members, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a COO, so big into finance and operations for an engineering company. Jobs and careers. My parents were really kind of open to just making sure that it didn't matter what I did as long as I went to college. That was the answer to everything. It didn't matter about the degree or anything, just make sure you go to college. Popular social issues at the time, I would say for my generation, that was kind of like the bridge between technology, because I remember life pre-technology, had a pager. Now with technology, it's kind of hard to remember back being in high school without any of that. But I would say kind of getting into the social media at that time, like MySpace and stuff like that was coming out, so people were venturing into just their internet life and what that was looking like for them. Technology used, like I said, just we were kind of on that cusp of cell phones. I remember graduating, and one of my graduation gifts was one of those like Nokia phones with the long antennas. I thought I was the coolest kid alive, because apparently my phone could do text messages, and I had no idea, because one night I started hearing this like beeping noise from my phone, and I thought it was because my battery was dead, but it was because I had a text message. And it took me like 2 weeks to figure out how to read it, because I had to call into it, and it was like through a voicemail, and it said, you have a text message, and it read the text message to me. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I thought it was like a waste of time. I was like, who would go through that much time to do something like that when you can just call somebody? Now it's like we all don't want to do any calling, it's all texting now. So what was important to you as a teenager? Honestly, it was sports and basketball. Girls and all that, yeah, that was important too. But sports and being part of like a team and just being competitive was really, really important to me. And how did I rebel? Gosh, how didn't I rebel? Other than not tucking in my shirt, I would say probably sneaking out at night, waiting until my parents went to bed, trying to figure out the best way to climb the roof and hop the tree and not fall on the fence and you know, all that other good stuff. Some nights were more successful than others, but I think eventually you get caught, and that's kind of like the end of it from there. But
Where were you going?
Probably to a girl's house.
But you didn't lose that, Dr. White?
Now, after the games were over, we had no more games for the week, that's exactly what
How
we
did you
were
get
doing.
back in?
Great question. Well, once my parents learned that I was out, they located me and then they took me home.
You never went out and came back in, they never knew?
Every now and then, but I made sure, like, if I was gonna sneak out, like, I was at a friend's house, and I did over there. It was just really hard for my parents, because they were, like, real quiet sleepers, and if they didn't close their door just right, it didn't matter what we did, the noise, they would always wake up.
Okay.
That's called parent instinct.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, let's give a hand for our millennial. So we don't have anybody from the new silent generation or the new generation alpha, right? Okay, go to the next slide. So now I'm going to go through and tell you what some of the background behind these groups. The silent generation were the traditionals. They were in 2018. Their age varied from 73 to 94. May have turned 18 at 43 to 63. And here's what they were like. Personal sacrifice, serving your country, group needs over individual needs. They were thrifty. They worked on insecurity, duty, discipline, and loyalty to company. And then the traditionals had formality, hierarchies, conformity, stability, resistant to change, sobriety. And they're not here to have a good time, they're here to work. And were these the good old days? Sometimes people refer to this time as the good old days. And then we have the boomers, which I'm a part of. Our age in 2018 varied from 54 to 72, and they turned 18 somewhere in 64 to 82. And we had flower power. And we had mom at home. 75% of the moms did not work, they were at home. So when you came home from school, mom was there with maybe a glass of milk, or maybe mom was watching a soap opera, but mom was in the home. And they were more social, relational, friendly, team, loyal to their team. They wanted to get to know you, sometimes intrusive, avoid conflict, and don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, especially the friends. And of course, parents spanked us. And boomers might create feedback, criticism issues, sensitive, slow to criticize others. We think we changed the world. We're on a mission to do better. We're good with the big picture and strong professional identity. Notice the dad giving his son a lecture there. To work with a boomer, don't be intrusive. Make yourself available to help with other people's development and communicate expectations directly, because they're not, maybe you can't guess them. You have to tell us directly. Ask and learn. We will mentor you, help you develop, promote you, develop feedback, seeking skills as needed, and collaborate. Tell us what you are doing. So collaboration, working together is a big deal with boomers. Generation X, born from 65 to 79. In 2018, they were aged 40 to 49. They turned 18 from 83 to 98. They're more skeptical, cautious, less trusting, spend energy on safety and security needs, more independent and self-sufficient, task-oriented, let's just get it done. They're scrappy, tough, adaptable, great with change. If you want to do company, team, self, they're good with any of that. They want career development. They were the first generation to take pride in lack of interest in advancement. Now notice what some of you have said about you were anxious to work, be out on your own, get that driver's license, get that job, go chase girls, go chase boys. But Generation X is losing interest. Be nice, avoid the bluntness, talks more about what people are doing right than correcting mistakes, recognizes the value of relationships, especially in complex projects, brainstorms before acting, and thinks process through before starting. And with them, to work with them, you have to be direct, just say what you need to say, create check-in points on projects, put it on, tell them to come to you, talk about their development, and go digital. Don't call, just send a text. And kids get popular again. Maybe some of you can remember there was a time when people said, well, I'm not going to have any kids because I want to advance my career. Or I'm not going to have kids because I'm going to go to college. And then some said, well, let's have kids again. So it became a safer environment, and so kids became popular. A generational shift occurred from the independent, adaptable pragmatists of Generation X to the era of wanted, precious, protected, perfect child. Now the family revolves around the children, and it's a good environment to grow narcissism. Everybody gets a trophy. Self-centered, low empathy, and need for approval. Millennials, in 2018, they were 18 to 38 years old, perhaps turned 18 in 99. Consistently liberal views on many social and governmental issues, experiencing high rates of unemployment, but still upbeat. In other words, they may not have a job, they still feel good about themselves. So welcome to the new face of America, because that is what happened. How we built Generation Y. When boomers became parents, they reacted to the traditional parenting they received. They didn't like getting spanked. Critical, they're thinking, we could have done better. Good enough reduces effort. I've heard some people say, well, if this is good enough for government work, why go any farther? Distant, parents were not our buddies. Parents were not that into our lives because they would hit us, authoritarian, their way or the highway. I brought you into this world. I can take you out, okay? Self-esteem parenting, new parenting model development from the human potential movement. The first generation where feeling good about yourself was the mission. This is our me generation. Uncritical but praising, close, involved, no spanking for better or worse. You do not touch my child. Parents, less authority figures, more like friends or peers. Don't tell them, ask them. But they were facilitators offering lots of choices versus compliance, possibly overrating skills and underrating necessary effort. And yet people remain closer to their parents as adults because they were pals. Praise and rewards without effort leads to confusion and entitlement. So do you see a problem between 1960, I don't know if you can see that, the dad has sees an F on the report card and he says to the kid, these grades are terrible. But in 2010, in comparison to what it is today, the parents have the report card in the hand and they're yelling at the teacher, these grades are terrible. So who's the ownership of the grades? There's been a shift. In Generation Y, our workplace expectations, general friendliness from everyone. They're looking for assistance, concern for their well-being, and they want flexibility. They're looking for forgiveness, lots of praise, lots of thanks. And in the workplace, readiness, less working experience, unfamiliar with workplace expectations, leadership issues. They don't like you as the boss. They just quit. Inexperienced with authority, feedback issues, and sensitive to criticism. You know, you correct somebody that's a worker in this age group and you've hurt their feelings. And so they'll just, well, I'll just quit. They don't have another job lined up, but they're mad at you, so they just quit. Generation Y is purposeful. They want to be involved in something important, meaningful, and progressive. They want to change the world for the better. They value human rights and fairness. They value diversity. Interested in social change. They believe in inclusion, equity, and environmental changes. In workplace readiness, most colleges are seriously out of step with the real world in getting students ready to become workers in the post-college world. Y'all agree with that? Go back. What was in the picture? It says, I just like being a kid. I enjoy it. I don't want to grow up. Remember the commercial, I'm a toy or us kids? I don't want to grow up. Generation Y, critical thinking, analytical reasoning, apply knowledge and skills to real world, effective oral and written communication, and they work effectively in teams. So if you were a boss and you knew you had a bunch of Generation Y, you would know it's good to work in a team. And hiring them, they hire for credentials, availability. You plan to develop them after you hire them, but hiring must be super fast. In other words, you can't just have multiple approvals. So think about it. When somebody applies for a teaching job, they go before a committee, and the principal perhaps spreads out the interviews over a week's time. By that time, Generation Y has already said, well, it's Friday and I didn't get the job, but they don't realize that maybe the decision was coming the next week, or the decision had to be written up and submitted to the assistant superintendent, who then had to do reference checks and write it up for the superintendent, who then went to the school board 2 or 3 weeks later and said, guess what, buddy, you're hired, you're going to be a teacher. These kids have already given up. This is what we're dealing with in some of the new hires. They want to be hired pretty quickly, so they know they have a job. Something else we're dealing with with this generation is you say you want to hire them, and they're still making applications to other schools and applying and being interviewed when maybe they've already told you, yes, I'll come to your school, but they're still shopping. They're looking for, are there going to be more holidays at this new place? Are you going to have year-round school? I get to have a vacation, after every 6 weeks. Not that people would ever do that, but anyway, let's go on. And you meet the parents, and what has happened to our homes. Many of you talked about in your homes you had the mother and the father, and you had quite a few brothers and sisters, or you had your extended family in your hometown, where every Sunday you got to see your grandparents. And now in America we've moved apart, and then sometimes people come back together and they're being raised by grandparents. So our world is changing quite a bit. With Generation Y, make expectations clear. Don't assume they understand anything. They may not understand the time to come to work, the dress codes, expectations of activity, language, customer focus. And you need to talk to them about protocols and procedures because they may not understand. Some of them are going for their 3rd freshman year at college. They have less work experience, different experiences with authority, consider something between practice teaching and full-time in their own classroom. Half-time for 6 months with option to go full-time as you wish may work for them. Since they're sensitive to criticism, will run away, may not be able to be told what to do, easy for them to quit, may respond better to being asked rather than being told. So think about this in your home. Would you go to your child and you'd say, well, it's 6:30 in the morning, hon. Would you like to get up and go to school or not? Well, most of us were raised like, it's 6:30, get up, get in the shower, get to school. But there's a big difference in that. And they like public praise. Let's go on. Don't wait for a mistake to talk to them. Look for things to be nice about. Let's go on to the next one. And here's a big change coming. Generation Z or Alpha, they're the new silent generation. In 2018, they were 8 to 18 years old, and they had 9/11, which has changed our world quite a bit. They're an emerging cohort. Lots of new data, especially on teenagers, is being researched. They're trending towards digital, developmentally delayed, stressed, anxious, depressed, emotionally fragile. We now have social emotional lessons in school because our kids are upset, this generation. They are sometimes called the woke generation or the awake generation. And not all show the traits, but you can see with these people have Facebook on their head, and the other social media is what's on their attention. You can see them walking somewhere, and they never look up. They're They could be falling into a hole, but they've got their face down on their phone. Digitally dependent and damaged, addicted to screens from an early age. They're averaging 6 to 8 hours a day out of school with new media, a few more hours on TV, watching whole seasons or binge watching, gradually disconnecting from the physical world into screens, immersive gaming, social media, online shopping, and services. Their need for human contact is fading. They're depending on the screens. They're replacing other out-of-school developmental activities, being fit, social, maturing with other things. Their attention span is there, but it's changing. More obese kids. We're going to be talking in the shack about, we have a generation now of kids that are overweight from eating processed foods and having no activity because their face is on a screen all the time. This impacts their mood. There's increases in screen time. It correlates with their feelings of loneliness, unhappiness, and depression. We need to help people understand the impact of screen time, and I think some of you have seen ads about, tell your kid when they can put the screen away from their face, their games. Understanding good versus bad use of screen time, and limiting that time for children. And no screen time for under 1 year. I've seen babies with a telephone in their face. Telephone is the babysitter. They need time for activities like fitness and social development. Let's go on. And they are delayed by drive, party, date, work, and to leave home without parents and to take risks. And some people may say with this generation, they just won't grow up. Generation Y delayed adulthood by prolonging adolescence. Generation Alpha is delaying adolescence by prolonging childhood. I've met teenagers who say, well, I don't want a driver's license. That's too much responsibility. And many parents don't see teen failures to be more independent as bad. They think that's a good thing. They become people that things happen to rather than them controlling their lives. Let's go on to the next one. I'm running out of time. They're living in a scary, stressed, polarized world, may not feel safe in school, in public, or at church. Safety and security needs are low-level needs, academically and extracurricularly pressured, and they have limited social coping skills. They're depressed and down. They don't know what to do about it. There are online issues, bullying, mobbing, judgment, suicide, self-harm is on the rise. Active shooter drills in schools do not help them to feel safe. It worries them more that it will really happen. And we need to teach the coping skills directly to them, relaxation and mindfulness. And our sayings, if you see something, say something, for suicide, self-harm, or bullying is something we need to work on. And then I added COVID-19, because to all of this, then we have the fear of getting sick or losing family members. They're emotionally fragile. Let's go on. And may be disturbed by hearing perspectives that they don't agree with. Where Generation Y may push back, Generation Alpha might crumble. And I'm going to go on. Often feel sympathy for the school shooters. There are no other people, they are just people. Let's go on. Talk about competence. We will see how it goes. Many families are struggling to help kids disengage. Some kids see it as a problem themselves. Many parents don't think teens being slow to date, party, drive, or work is necessarily a bad thing because they can keep them home longer. K-12 schools are struggling with some students in this generation. They have more developmental needs. They have more anxiety. civil disobedience, let's go on. And so wherever our research says we have to be very concerned about this generation of kids that are coming up because the school has to adapt to them. And it's going to become possible that younger and younger people are going to be on school boards, and they're going to come with different perspectives than what any of us in this room have. Let's go on. So conclusion, how does this relate to school board members working as a team? We've been using this word team of 8. Yet we've all said we were all different. We've all had a different upbringing and a different time period, different types of parenting. We ourselves are parents, and we're different than what our parents were like. So can somebody draw a conclusion for this?
Well, as a team of 8, we're almost like a team of 8 of parents that are needing to make decisions for every child in the school district and not just this set of children or this set of children. It has to be about every child that sits in the classroom. So we have to take our wisdom and our experiences and stuff with us to come in here, but our job is to make decisions for the families in our community that fall in all these different categories.
Okay? Because we have employees that are at different age groups and principals that are at a different age group, and they're working with parents from a different age group and sometimes grandparents who come from still another age generation. Anything else?
My conclusion is that it's, for a team of 8 to work, there has to be accountability for what has been in the district. I can't move forward with this. I've sat here just out of respect mainly to you, but I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready to be a team of 8 because we haven't even addressed the problems we have in the district. So how can you move forward? How can you represent everyone when nothing's really fixed yet? So that's my.
Okay?
Let me move into,
Go ahead.
I think that you were done, and we'll transition into my presentation. And my presentation addresses the teamwork. If you're going to move forward, you have to be a team of 8. You have to work together. You have to come together for the sake of moving forward. What has happened in the past, I don't know, but I do know that from this point moving forward, you have to come together. And I'll address that in my presentation. I don't know if you have anything else to add, but we can take a real short break so I can get my PowerPoint going, and then we can move into the presentation that I have.
Thank you all for participating with me. I hope that it meant something to you and
Yeah, well, it's
helped.
the thing that we're all different.
We're all different, but we're going to work together.
Backgrounds, but you have to work together regardless of your feelings here. You work
And we
as a
can't
team.
fix everything.
You can't fix everything, but everybody has to get together to work toward it.
Which one is it?
Always up for a challenge, Ms.
Oh, yeah.
Marcella.
Oh, that's good. It's good. Get you some pizza there.
This one?
Yes. Can downsize that?
You want me to save it on here? So we can, because we're running out of space to put, I
Yes.
gotta put your.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Carlos Guerra. I'm the Field Service Agent of Region 2 Education Service Center. On behalf of Dr. Sendejas, our Executive Director, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be with you here tonight and share some of the team building activities that we have done in the past for other school districts. And as the name says, team building, we're trying to bring, the team of 8 together, the 7 board members and the superintendent making the team of 8. Before I move on, I was really into the presentation that Dr. Sikora was doing, and a couple of them made me laugh, made me giggle. In thinking about technology, I remember my daughter was warming up some tortillas, and she took out a spatula and she flipped the tortilla. And I saw her and I said, "Mija, that's not the way you flip tortillas. You grab them with your thumb and forefinger and you flip them." I said, "No respectable Mexican American woman would be caught turning tortillas over with a spatula." I said, "Your grandmother must be rolling in her grave right now." So I really laid into her. So she takes a spatula and she looks at me and she goes, "We got technology now, Dad." So the technology is all relative to the year that you're in and what's available. And I thought about the things that we had as technology developed, but that really took me back. But, again, thank you for the opportunity. And what I want to do today is talk to you about different things, about coming together as a team of 8. And the school board training that is developed, that is being delivered today, is part of a statewide collaborative in which Team Building 2, Level 2, focuses on the characteristics of the symbol contained here: effective teams, assessment teams, and you plan for the team growth. In other words, an effective team is going to assess where they are, what they're doing, and they're going to plan for their goal. It's like, you don't have any goals. It's like a ship without a sail out in the ocean. It's going to flow in any direction that the current's taking. The other thing is, if you don't have a goal, how do you know when you got there? If you don't know where you're going, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, how do you know that you got there? So we'll be addressing these from different standpoints. Purpose: to improve team effectiveness. Okay? Going from good to great. Stephen Covey, I think, put out a book about taking companies from good to great. Well, we can take school board teams from good to great also, but we have to follow a process and we have to stay within our lanes. The goal is to acquire strategies and skills applicable to team effectiveness. What is an effective team? What are the characteristics? How do we know that we have an effective team? How do we know that we have one that is not effective? First of all, we have to assess your current team performance. Okay? Where are we? What do we need to do? What's wrong? What's right? What are we missing? Okay? And then you have to revise your action plan and plan for team growth. Okay? One of the major issues that I have come across as I work with different boards and superintendents and what have you is people knowing to stay in their lanes. What are the responsibilities of the superintendent? What are the responsibilities of the board? Okay? In your packet, you should have a folder like this with you. Take out this sheet that says powers, duties, and responsibilities of the board/superintendent. And I want you to go through those quickly. And I want you to tell me if this is a board function or if it's a superintendent function. Number 1, publish an annual report describing the district's educational performance, including campus performance objectives and the progress of each campus towards those objectives. Who's responsible for that? The board or the superintendent? Okay? Prepare recommendations to policies to be adopted and oversee the implementation of adopted policies. Board or superintendent? Okay. Either put a check mark on the column or put a B or an S on which one you think it is. Okay? So I'm gonna give you about 5 or 6 minutes to work on that. And, so you can work on that on your own. You didn't know that I was gonna test you, did you? I used to tell parents when I had open house, I would take out a pop quiz. I was a math teacher, so I would take out a pop quiz and I would put it on the parents' desk and I would say, you have 5 minutes to finish it. And they would look at me like, are you crazy or what? And I would remind them that this is how the child feels when they are unprepared for the day. When they have not done their homework, they have not studied their lesson, they come to school and now you've got a pop quiz, you've got to do this. Okay. This also applies to boards when you fail to review your agenda. Your agenda and your backup materials. You get to a board meeting and you start talking about one of the agenda items and you have not done the backup on it. So you feel at a loss. You feel out of place. Is that the board's doing or is that you're doing? Okay, I'm going to continue with my presentation, and if you haven't finished, just go ahead and continue to read those and think about where they belong, and we'll come back to that at a later time. Now, I've told you, well, I guess I haven't told you a whole lot about myself other than I'm a field service agent. I am a retired superintendent, retired in December of 2017. I'm also a former school board member, so I've been in the seat that you've been in and know what it's like on the other side, okay? And I'm also a basketball official. Let me see how I can tie that into this presentation. As a matter of fact, last year I had the privilege of officiating one of the Tolosa Midway basketball games. They went down to the valley, they played a team from Mission. and I happened to be one of the officials. So if y'all were there and y'all were yelling at the officials, that was me. But I mention this because in officiating, as you can plainly see, there are 3 officials. And each one of us is assigned an area. I have this zone and this is my primary. If there's nothing going on, I can extend myself into the primary of the other official. And again, it's divided into 3. There's times we will have 2 whistles, okay? And when we have 2 whistles, I will look at the official, he'll look at me, and then he'll either point to me or I'll point to him, and that's who takes the call, or we'll come together and say, what do you have? You know, we come together and we communicate. We don't always agree on the decision. Oh, no, he had started a shot. No, well, he did not have 2 hands on the ball. You know, so we go through this. This is communication. And in all the training that I have had, and I've officiated for about 40 years, in the training that I've had, they've always told me 2 things. You have to communicate with your partners, okay? And the other thing is you have to trust your partner. If I blow the whistle and the foul is in the area of the other official, I have to trust that he has a better look at it and that he's going to pick it up, he's going to take care of it, okay? Now, if he doesn't, then it's blatant or ugly, then I'm going to come in and pick it up, okay? But trust your partners, you know, communicate. And we do that, we communicate before the game, we communicate during the game, we communicate at halftime, at timeouts, and we even communicate after the game. We have post-game conversations, okay? But it's built on 2 things, trust and communication. And if you don't have those 2 things on that team, it's not going to work. We've had officials who have actually gotten into shoving matches on the court. I've disagreed with other officials, but we take it into the dressing room and we talk about it in the dressing room or after the game, okay? That's where those disagreements have to take place. You don't have to agree with everything, but there's a time and a place for these disagreements to happen. And the reason that I mention this is because your team of 8 needs to work pretty much the same way, okay? You need to know your area, and you need to know that if you go out of your area, you got to communicate with the person that's responsible for that area, for that lane. As they say nowadays, stay in your lane, you know? And then you have to trust that they know what they're doing, that they have the responsibility, okay? And I will cover, and I will touch on that a little bit further on, okay? So, keys to greatness, okay? The first key is knowledge. Tonight's training will focus on moving the team of 8 to greatness. There is much attention in business education to a book, Good to Great. There are 3 keys necessary to moving the team of 8 forward to greatness. Knowledge. Just like the officials need to have knowledge of the rules and what's going on, you need to have knowledge of policies and procedures and things that occur. Where do you get that information? Where do you get the information about policies and procedures in this? Okay? You have to have trust. Does a team of 8 believe and respect each other? Trust allows the board to focus on the most important issues, the welfare of the students, fiscal responsibility, and personnel decisions. Okay? You got to have the trust. Okay? And in order for me to have the trust in you, we have to build that up through communication. Okay? Talking to each other. It's okay to disagree, you know, but let's talk it over. Let's find out what the issues are, and let's try to come together to a decision that is representative of all the students, not just a group of students, or not just one student, okay? Next one is ethical behavior. According to Stephen Covey, a basic human need to leave is a legacy. Based on your behavior, how will you be remembered individually and collectively? Okay? Through your ethical behavior. Okay? What you do and do not do. That's what you're going to be remembered by. And according to Covey, this is one of the basic human needs that, you know, we want to have we want to leave a legacy. What do you want them to say about you when they are delivering your eulogy? You know, that's what a legacy is basically about. Okay? I'm going to show you some samples of some districts. These are, the names have been changed to protect the guilty, you know, so just go along with me, follow along with me. And I think that you have these in your folder so that you can either read them off of the screen or you can read it from your folder. And the first one is this item that says Simple ISD at the top. Okay, get to know those out. This handout, Simple ISD, that is in your folder, okay? And, let me read it out loud for you. There will be plenty of yawns and bloodshot eyes around town today. More than 100 people lost sleep last night as they attended a school board meeting that stretched out for 7 hours and finally concluded at 2 o'clock in the morning. As a former board member, I've been up at 2 o'clock in the morning at meetings, okay? Not a very good thing. The meeting got out of hand as 84 people lined up to speak during the public forum. Well, the time of the presentations varied. Some lasted as long as 30 minutes. The topic was always the same. Get rid of went Ofer. Mr. Ofer had been Simple ISD football coach until April when the board agreed to pay him $100,000 to buy out the remainder of his 3-year contract. The board also reassigned him to the position of girls golf coach. As the Texas Education Agency reviewed this issue, severe governance problems were discovered. Simple ISD parents were not concerned so much with governance problems as they were shocked that Mr. Ofer was still employed by the Simple ISD in any role. This problem is not over. With TA launching an investigation and a large number of citizens still upset, we will be hearing more in the future. In the meantime, if you plan on attending any upcoming school board meetings, you better take your pillow. Okay? Simple ISD public forum continues for 8 hours. How can we stop this? How can this be avoided?
Well, now we have timeframes that we have to stay in.
As a district, you can set the time frame to be just about any amount you want. Okay? You can say we're going to have 30 minutes for public forum, and each person is going to be allowed 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 1 minute, depending on what you want to set. These guidelines are generally set in your standard operating procedures for boards. I have not read your SOPs, but if it is stated on there, that's what we're going to go by. The law says that you have to give the public the opportunity to be heard. Okay? It doesn't say that you have to listen to them for 7 hours or 8 hours. Okay? It just says that they have the opportunity to be heard. And by giving them a time frame, you are complying with that law. Okay? Standard operating procedures are great, but if they're just on the shelf collecting dust, then it's not effective. You have the procedures, you have to implement the guidelines, because if you don't, then everybody else that comes up afterwards is going to want to do the same thing. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
How do you politely discourage without making that person,
You make it clear at the very beginning.
even though that's clear at the read out, how do you politely?
What a good practice would be to say, you have 1 minute to go. You've already given them one warning.
Okay.
You might even go 30 seconds. Sir, your time is up. Thank you very much for your comments. Next speaker. Okay. Sometimes there's not a polite way to do it. Sometimes you just have to say, sir, your time is up. Some people have a peace officer in there, and, They can ask them to stop, they can ask them to leave. You can also shut off the microphone, okay? I know it's not the most polite thing to do, but they're not being polite either. They're not being polite to you, they're not being polite to the rest of the people that are there, to the one that's gonna follow them. You have to enforce it, and you enforce it for everybody. People get used to that. But I would give a warning. I would say, you've got 1 minute to go. You've got 30 seconds. Thank you, sir. Yeah. I don't know that anybody's actually watching their watch, but some people may. But if you go up 5, 10, 15 seconds behind, and you hear that they are closing out their comments, let them finish, and then, So there's ways of addressing it, so.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Out of the loop again. You have Shady ISD. Says there appears to be some tension between some of the Shady ISD school board members and John Brownlee, Shady ISD superintendent. During last night's school board meeting, board member Mr. Lonely expressed his frustration at being left out of the loop again. After a lengthy discussion leading to a vote on the construction of a technology center, Mr. Lee expressed his frustration. How come there are 4 board members that have all the answers or information to the questions I have been asking? I don't know for sure when or how you get your information, but it is not through board agendas and materials. It would not be a big deal except that it seems to have become a common occurrence, said Lee. It seems to me that Mr. Brownlee has a group of favorites among the board members. It is those members who receive coaching and or inside information that is not made available to other members. If we are expected to function as a team, we all need to be included in the huddle. That is all I have to say about this, concluded Mr. Lee. Okay? Not everybody's getting the information shared equally. That could pose a lot of problems. How can we avoid this? I go back to your standard operating procedures. The last district I was in, if a board member had a question, and where does a board member go to question with your procedures? If you have a question as a board member, who do you ask?
Superintendent.
You go to a superintendent. Okay? Now, and the last district I was in, they had to send the question in via email. The superintendent would respond to the question to all the board members. Everybody got to see the question, and everybody got to see the response. Everybody has the same information. Everybody's getting the same feedback, so that when you're asked out in the community, he's not going to give you one answer, and I'm not going to get a different answer from you and a different answer from him. I'm going to get the same answer from everybody, because everybody got the same response. Okay, so these are things that are critical to creating a team. Mr. Lonely feels lonely because he knows that he's being left out, and he doesn't feel as part of the team. Let's talk about local shops land school district contract. Let's talk about Shifty ISD. The Shifty ISD are your children in junior high or senior high school physical education class. If so, you will be making your annual trip to Play Hard, Look Good Sports Center. The contract for Shifty ISD PE uniforms was awarded again to the local sports center in spite of several competing proposals from sporting goods suppliers around the state. Don't get me wrong, this report is all for supporting local businesses. I even understand the slightly higher price that comes from a smaller shop with personal service as opposed to a large mail order firm. Play Hard, Look Good continues to offer some great products with friendly hometown service. So what is the issue? Again, this year, I wonder why board member EVR present, or ever present, continues to vote on this contract. Everybody knows that Ms. President's brother, Hardy Good, owns Play Hard, Look Good. Wouldn't it be better if Ms. President excused himself from the vote in the room during the vote? Board members have to be aware of their personal and political influence. It is a responsibility that comes when they are elected. Okay? If there's a conflict of interest, You need to stay out of the discussion. And I remember as a board member, you know, even back then, back in '93, we would fill out, you know, if we had any investments or any interest in any vendors that did business with the school district. And I'm sure that you all have to fill those out as well. Okay, so when something regarding that comes up, yes, you need to abstain. A lot of people make assumptions when there are close, they're friends, acquaintances, you know. The law doesn't specify on that, you know, but it does when there's a relationship. Ethically, I think that if you feel that you are, you feel that you have a conflict in that, that you should refrain from the discussion and the vote on that or abstain on it, okay? One of the laws that was passed several years ago gave the employees the right to discuss situations with board members, up to board members when they had a problem. I knew that that was going to be an issue, and it has become in certain places, because now, as a board member, you're telling me about a problem that's going on in school, and let's say you got into a trouble with a principal and he's going to write you up. You go file a grievance, and that grievance ends up at level 3 with the board. Now you've had insight into this that the rest have not. And in certain situations, the correct thing to do would be for you to abstain from discussion in that grievance. Okay? So, yes, I want to hear what the problems are, but I'm going to send them to her and let her take care of them. You know, that's what we pay her for. You know, so that, and I know that because you help people, they come back and they keep asking. But once they understand that your role as an individual board member, you really have no authority. You know, you're only one board member. You only have authority when you're at a duly called board meeting. And that's part of your training at level 1. Okay? And again, my experience as a board member, and not only as a board member, as a teacher, as a principal, as a superintendent, the public sees me as 24/7. I'm a board member 24/7. I was a superintendent 24/7. I was a teacher. You know, I'd be at the grocery store and, you know, parents come and they start talking and they want to talk about school and all that. And that's not a good place for you to be discussing the child's performance, you know, trying to set up something. But they always see you as a board member, you know. But once they see that you're handling it the way that it should be handled and say, you know, take it to the superintendent, they'll stop, you know, approaching it every time, okay? Because they know that they're going to have, you know, they're trying to cut some corners, and they know that, you know, you're not going to allow them to cut corners, and so they will skip you the next time and just go straight to the superintendent, hopefully, okay? Have another one here. Oh, I'm sorry, we do not have another one. I thought that was a, okay. Knowledge. There is much information regarding the board members' responsibilities, duties, and requirements. Okay? Who's the senior board member here? Mr. Lundy? Been on the board the longest?
One of them.
Okay. You know what? He's still learning. School has not stayed the same. Things keep changing. Your responsibilities, your duties keep changing. Okay? So you need to keep up with that change. That's why the state came up with a framework for school board member training, because they wanted to make sure that every school board across the state got the same type and the same level of training. And everybody was focused on that school board training. A man must be big enough to admit his mistakes, smart enough to profit from them, and strong enough to correct them. How do we profit from mistakes? You learn not to make that mistake again. You know, I jam my finger with a hammer. You know, I'm not going to swing that hammer, like I did the last time, okay? There's many resources that exist that board members could use to increase their knowledge. Some of them are different books, your standard operating procedures, you can go to TASB, you can go to SLI. All these are there for a reason, okay? While it may seem that board members go off just to have a good time, no, they're required to attend trainings. They're required to receive a certain number of hours of training in order to meet the state requirements. And that's a very good place to receive it, okay? They have some very good presenters at that level. So I would recommend that you consider when there's an opportunity, one of these statewide trainings.
Keep up with the state, they're always changing everything, aren't they?
Yes. The only thing constant about the state is change itself, It's going to change. Do you have the knowledge to fill these roles and responsibilities? After 3 years of research, Donald Whistler formulated 6 rules that determine the roles of board members. These rules were cited in Wall Street Journal article. Even though this study was not Texas-based, it coincides with the Texas Education Code, and all great boards have certain characteristics in common. Okay? Do you feel that you have the knowledge to perform these duties and fulfill these roles? Give counsel and make judgment. This rule is broad in general, however, it is useful. All of us ought to check every activity in which we are engaged as board members. If our involvement in any activity doesn't comply with this first rule, we are probably infringing upon the management responsibility of the chief administrator. Assess, and if necessary, replace top management administration. This is perhaps the single most important responsibility of the Board of Education. The board's evaluation of the chief administrator should be ongoing. The purpose shouldn't be to find fault, but to offer constructive criticism and support as an advocate, not as an enemy. However, in the infrequent case when dismissal is warranted, board members should be there to assist with the resolve. Now, there's a book out there that's called Progressive Discipline. Progressive discipline is you start with the first level of discipline, then if it doesn't work, you move up to the next one, and then if it doesn't work, you move up to the next one, and so on. Although it seems structured, it is pretty flexible. You might take 2 or 3 times at level 1 before you go to level 2, 2 or 3 times before you go to level 3, and so on, with the ultimate being dismissal of the individual. Even though it seems like that's what you're trying to do by going through all the steps, in actuality, what you're trying to do is you're trying to correct the behavior. You're trying to improve that person's performance, okay? When somebody is not doing something, there's probably 2 reasons. They can't or they won't, okay? It's a choice. Some people, when it comes to can't, it's a choice. When you say, I can't get up early enough in the morning, no, you can't. You have to make a choice. Okay? I won't. You don't want to. Okay? I had a situation with a lady that, a bus driver that was constantly late, to the shop, to the bus barn. And, the bus transportation director brought her to me and said, we're having these issues. And I started talking to her, and, we started discussing what was going on. Well, what happened is that she had a child that was disabled, and she had to take that child to school and drop him off before she'd go to the bus barn. Okay? Is it that she won't, or is it that she can't? Okay, she's got to take care of her child first. Okay, and we need to understand that. The tardiness was not necessarily impacting the transportation department or her route. Kids were getting picked up on time, kids were getting dropped off on time. you know. But we would ask bus drivers to show up 30 minutes before their route started so that they could go through their pre-trip. Okay. She was still doing the pre-trip, everything was being fine, other than she was going in late 15 minutes or so. I worked with her, we worked it out and said, okay, you know, we will accept this, okay? So when there's issues of that sort, you have to figure out, okay, what's going on? You have to have the knowledge, you have to have the understanding of what's going on in that situation and react accordingly. Able to oversee rather than manage the organization. Sometimes both we and the public find this rule hard to understand, which is what I just talked about when we apply it to a school system. After all, the Board of Education is at the top of the organizational chart, just like the Board of Directors of a business. But the reality is that a Board of Education usually does not meet more than a couple times a month. And any governing body that meets this infrequently cannot manage a school system. Even if the board members work every hour of every day, however, we must know that the school board governs the school. The chief executive is responsible for managing them. Okay? You could not possibly manage this monster of a school district. You know, you only meet once or twice a month. You know, can you imagine overseeing the job that you have and you only go once or twice a month? That would not be very good oversight. Okay? When I read this, the thought that came to my mind was when your parents would come in and they would say, you need to clean your room is a mess, clean it up. What would be the response? Oh, I don't know, I can't, I don't know how to do it. What would mom say? I don't care how you get it done, just get it done. Okay. Now, and that's essentially, as a board, what you're doing with the superintendent. You set your goals, this is our goals, and then you step back and you say, you strategize. You figure out what strategy you're going to follow in order to accomplish these goals. Okay. The strategy belongs to her, the goals belong to you. Okay. And you can't go around saying, well, you need to move coach so-and-so from this class to this class because he's not very good with discipline. Or you need to put more money in this account because these guys don't know how to manage their money. Okay. Those are her strategies. Okay. You set your goals and you let her take it from there and get me over there. Doesn't matter how, just get me there. Okay? Ensure long-term survival of the organization. A school board member must be cognizant of the many forces that affect the welfare of the school. These include social, economic, political, and historical forces. They must be identified. Their implications must be analyzed and evaluated by the board. Administrators and teachers come and go, and changes occur in the system frequently. The board must persevere and remain dedicated to maintaining the validity and renewal of the schools. You're responsible for setting tax rates. Okay? Those tax rates impact people for a long period of time. And when you do that, you need to consider what are the implications of us setting the tax rate at this level? Or what if we set it too low? What are the implications for the school district that's not going to have sufficient funding to carry out the strategies that the superintendent needs to carry out in order to meet the goals that you have set? It all works together. Represent the state and act in the interest of the clients. This rule is often difficult for us to adhere to. We sometimes confuse the public interest with our own biases or with the interests of articulate and forceful individuals, special interest groups, or school employees. Too often we put these forces ahead of public interest. Perhaps we ought to restate the rule in clear terms. The board exists to maximize the educational value of the school for all students, regardless of race, creed, color, sex, ability, or socioeconomic circumstances. Okay. When we start setting goals, when we start making strategies that only affect one group, and it's not applicable to all the students, then we are jeopardizing, the interests of our clients. everything needs to be done with the students in mind. Okay? Very often when I make decisions and I blew it, my response was always, at the point in time that I made the decision, I made it with the information that I had at that point in time. Today, I would probably make a different decision, okay? I don't have room as a superintendent, and you don't have room as a school board to be a Monday morning quarterback. It's easy to make the right call after the play has happened, okay? But prior to that, with the information that you have, that's where the knowledge and background comes into play. Allow administrators to develop and implement strategy. Okay? Allow administrators to develop and implement strategy. While a board may indeed be instrumental in establishing goals and directions, the strategy for achieving them is a province of management. Once a board becomes bogged down in developing strategy, it has abdicated its responsibility and power to evaluate alternatives. Never forget, a board sets policy. However, when it attempts to set strategy, it takes that responsibility from administrators. Administrators who are the ones responsible for implementation. This is a guarantee of failure, and for obvious reasons. First, administrators who must implement strategy are the ones most qualified to devise it. They know what they're talking about. That's what I studied for. I spent so many years in college. I have so many years of experience on the job. This is what I studied for. Second, when a board sets policy and strategy and a project or plan fails, the board must bear total responsibility for that failure. While a board must see that strategy is developed, explained, and defined, it must not set strategy unless it wants to build failure into almost every undertaking. Okay? I've been there. Is this what you want me to do? Or are you going to take responsibility for it? Okay, or just going to go against my evaluation, and you want me to do this, and when I do it, it blows up. Now you blame me for it. Okay? You maim me, and then you blame me for limping. Right? Break my leg and then say, well, you're limping. Of course, you broke my leg here. Okay? Knowledge. A president's hardest task is not knowing what is right, but to know what is right. Lyndon Baines Johnson. Okay? Reminds me of the movie Apollo 13. They're kind of locked into whatever problems that they have. They're running out of oxygen. And they got to find a way to basically scrub the air so that it's reusable. Who solves the problem? The engineers, down on the ground. They have the knowledge of what's inside the capsule. They know everything that's inside the capsule. And they have the knowledge to put these things together so that we can have an air scrubber that will continue the providing of oxygen to the crew. Without that knowledge, those guys were doomed. Okay? So knowledge is power, as the old adage goes. Trust. Trust others and they will be true to you. Treat them greatly and they will show themselves great. Okay? People are going to treat you the way that you treat them. Okay? And if you want to gain somebody's trust, you better give them your trust before you're going to gain their trust. Okay? Some things take a little bit longer than others, but it's possible through communication. Open and honest communication is a foundation of trust. This involves avoiding communication barriers and exercising listening skills. Communication as a team of eight is a developing process. Great boards will avoid communication barriers. Okay? For the purpose of this training, we will look at some barriers to communications that destroy interpersonal relationships. One of the things that people often forget about communication is that there's two sides. There's the person that's providing the information, and there's the person that's receiving it. You have to be a good listener. And you also have to be I won't say an eloquent speaker, but you also have to be able to express your opinion in a dignified way. Okay? It goes both ways. You know, the talking and the listening. Everybody's heard, that's why we get 2 ears and 1 mouth. You know, we're supposed to listen twice as much. Okay? And you'd be surprised how effective listening is. How many problems it can solve for you just by listening. Some people just want to be heard, man. You know, all they want is, let me get it off of my chest, you know. And I've got somebody here, a sounding board. Yes, sir, we'll take a look at it. I got a lot of practice in Bronzeville with that. Before anybody could go see Dr. Sendejas, the superintendent, they had to go through my office first. And I had the opportunity to take care of the situation and address it so that it didn't get to the superintendent's office. Well, I did a lot of listening, okay? I did a lot of listening. While I did a lot of listening, as a board member, and I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I was not the best board member. I didn't have the knowledge then that I have now. And I was not a very good board member, okay? And we'll admit that. And this is where these communication barriers come into play, okay? You have the meeting bully. Occasionally, an individual can become focused and aggressive in his or her own agenda, and this behavior can create a hostile climate. Collaboration becomes almost impossible as a result. The meeting bully is out of control, pulls rank, threatens group. This aggression might arise from a clash of values. The role offers virtually limitless examples of personal and political conflicts that grow out of clashes of values. Clashes of values may occur over mission, over purpose, or ethics. Aggression can also spring from ego or appetites for success, power, and recognition may place us in conflict with people who are similarly driven. Ego-related conflicts may involve human drives for recognition, esteem, face-saving tactics, and competition for goal attainment. Okay. What do you want to be remembered for? You want to be remembered for a meeting bully? I played this role sometimes, and I knew what I was doing, you know. Didn't get me anywhere, but let's complete it. Like I said, I'm not saying that it was right. The magician. What's this one about? You have a board member who's a magician. Played this role on a couple occasions too. Pulls things out of a hat. Right in the middle of a meeting. Let me give you this example of that happened recently at a school district in the valley, and I'm familiar with it because I know some people that were on the board. Board is sitting in executive session with the superintendent. One of the board members turns to the superintendent and says, "What are you going to do about the hazing that happened to my son last week in the dressing room?" Okay? That was a week late. That was in executive session. Superintendent had no clue about what was going on. But that is a real incident. And that is a real ploy. Okay? How can she respond? You know, you did not allow me to prepare. You did not allow me to investigate. Furthermore, you took a whole week before you brought it to my attention. Had you brought it to me the day that it happened, while it was fresh, maybe I could have done some sort of investigation into what happened. You know, so don't pull this out of the hat. You're blindsiding me. You're blindsiding the team. Okay? Everybody's hit with, well, wait a minute, where'd that come from? Okay? That board member should have notified the superintendent when the incident happened, given her an opportunity to investigate. has a hidden agenda. Okay? I can't say that that board member had a hidden agenda because I don't know. Okay? But it certainly looks that way, and it appears to me that that hidden agenda was that I want to make the superintendent look bad in front of the rest of the board, that she doesn't know what's going on in her very own school. Okay? Is that working like a team of 8? No. It's working like a team of 1 against the rest of the world. The blocker. Think about the blocker. What do you suppose the blocker does? Is it familiar? Build walls around. I'm going to block anything that he wants to do, that they want to accomplish. I'm going to find a way to block it. Okay? I had a board member that we went out for RFQs. We received the RFQs we were looking for an architectural firm to oversee the construction of the high school. The committee selected one firm. Board member wanted the firm that had come in last. There were 3, and the firm that he was pushing for, special interest, had ties to the architect. So he blocked every motion that was made. Oh, no, we need to go back, and we need more information than this. Oh, I need this information. And continued to delay the agenda item until he had sufficient votes to get it passed. And he did. Okay? The blocker argues without listening. The blocker tells unrelated jokes or stories to get you off subject. The blocker stalls the group with irrelevant interruptions. Oh, we need more information. How much did you say? No. Who was on the committee? How many committee? Why did you only have 3 committee members? How come there were not 5? Is that relevant? It's not. You know, the bottom line is they were the 3rd ranked, but he found a way to get it done. Okay. Mr. Biz, by way or the highway, focuses on his or her agenda. Is self-centered. Is non-compromising. I'm not going to give in. Okay? There's nothing that you can do or say to get them to play along or go along. Am I pushing the right button? There you go. Trust is the glue that holds great teams together. Okay? Where do you get your information? Do you trust your teammates? Do you trust your superintendent? Is she giving you all the information, or is she hiding stuff? Does he know more than you do? Do you trust why he's questioning the agenda item on the table? What's his concern? Why is he making such a big deal? You know? Do you have trust in each other? Do you have trust in the team? Do you have trust that what you're trying to accomplish is in the very best interest of the students of Tolosa Midway? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. Ethical behavior. Have you ever been faced with a situation like this? Ethics is doing the right thing when you know it's going to cost you more than you want it to pay. I had to terminate my secretary's husband from employment with the school district that I was in. Okay. The ethics, I had to. And I knew it was going to hurt me. I knew it was going to cost me. And I knew it was going to be difficult to continue working with her. But we did. And we never discussed the situation with her husband. Okay? Because of ethics, he had to go. Okay? And I knew it was going to hurt me. I knew it was going to cost me. Not necessarily dollars and cents, but in the working relationship that I had with that individual. Have you ever had this where, oh shoot, this is gonna, okay. Student outcomes do not change until adult behaviors change. Student outcomes do not change until adult behaviors change. Okay? You're being watched. They know who the board members are. And I don't know if you're all televised your board meetings or not, but, Einstein, if you continue to do the same thing that you've always done and expect to get a different result, that's insanity. Okay? So if you want to continue if you want to continue being good, continue doing what you're doing. Continue being good. But if you want to become great, then you need to change your behaviors. And your behaviors are talking about the three things that I've been talking about. Knowledge, trust, ethics. Okay? Sometimes it may be a hard pill to swallow, but that's what we need to do. What impacts adult behavior? Knowledge. Right? I just told you a while ago, man, if I knew now what I didn't know then, I could be dangerous. Could hurt myself probably. Skills. Got to have your skills. Okay? I don't have the skills to drive a car, I shouldn't be behind the wheel. If I don't have the skills to communicate, maybe this is not a good position for me. Mindset. What is mindset? I'm looking for my notes on mindset. Where did I leave my notes on mindset? This is one that I really wanted to point out. Let me see. A mindset is continuing to find things or reasons for believing what you already believe. In other words, just trying to justify your beliefs. Okay? I hope I don't step on anybody's toes, but let me just say this. Okay? Trump's election. Okay? People have a mind, there are people that have a mindset that the election was a fraud. Okay? And they continue to look for ways to say, see, it was a fraud. I'm telling you it was a fraud. There's not anything there. They continue to believe that. And then there's the ones that say this is the cleanest election that there has ever been. That's their mindset. And they're finding things to say, see, the election was clean. And those are the types of arguments that we make. When we believe and we're set on, no, this is what happened, this is the way it is. And you continue to find reasons to justify your beliefs. When you change that mindset, you're able to move from good to great. Because your mindset is what is keeping you where you are now. You continue to justify, well, this is what's going on. And this is it. And you're not accepting that there's another side to that. Okay? You've got to improve your knowledge, you've got to improve your skills, and you've got to put a check mark on your mindset. Okay? Knowledge. Where do you get your knowledge from? Good to great. Jim Collins. You get your knowledge from the superintendent. Books by Stephen Covey. You can get information from your local board, your board members, the more experienced ones, the ones that have been here a number of years. Books by John C. Maxwell. SOP, your standard operating procedures. You can get your information and your knowledge from local policy. You can get it from TASA. How many of you are familiar with your online policy book?
I look at it.
When was the last time that you went online and looked at your online policy book? Was it the last week? Okay. Okay, good. You know, I'm blown away by how many people don't understand that there's an online policy book that could probably answer any question that you may have about the school district, operating procedures and all that. It's all there, you know? And if they knew how to navigate and how simple it is to navigate, you know, you guys wouldn't be getting any calls. You know, she wouldn't be getting any, well, she might get some calls when they find out what the policy is on a certain item, you know. But that's, I don't want to say the threat of knowledge, but that's what you have to deal with. They become knowledgeable and they're more knowledgeable than you. You don't want that to happen. SLI, Summer Leadership Institute, TASB, Texas Association of School Boards. I don't know what type of agreement y'all have with your attorneys, but that could certainly be another source. Some firms I know would provide us the service for a set fee if it was a simple question and it didn't require any research on their part. Okay? Experienced board members, outside trainers such as myself from the region, from law firms or others. Okay? All these are great resources that you need to be familiar with, and that, you know, I'll be honest with you, I got some responses sometimes, and I doubted what I was hearing, so I went and I researched it myself, and I found out, that's not what the policy says. Okay? Board retreats, TEA data, your PEIMS report, man. Get a PEIMS report and you have all the information you want to know about your district and then some. Okay? Every test score, you know where every dollar is being spent, your attendance, how much your administrators are making, everything. It's all there in the PEIMS report. Somebody asked me what PEIMS was used for, and I was like, just about everything. Skills. Yes, what skills do you need as a board member? You gotta be able to communicate, and again, that involves listening. Ability to listen. Ability to collaborate. Okay, let's work on it together. Let's see if there can be a little give and take. You know, I'll support you here, or, you know, grant, provided this and this. Collaborate and try to help others attain what is in the best interest of the student. Yes, sir.
Could we collaborate for a short break?
I am open to any recommendations, any suggestions, so let's take 5 minutes right now.
Thank you.
Let's collaborate on a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll be back.
Thank you, because I need a drink of water too.
All right.
Dr. Burrow, are you from the valley?
Yes, ma'am. I live in Harlingen.
Do you work at the
No, I think I'm gonna hold on to it. Thank you, though.
No.
No, just for yes.
I might eat it on the way home.
I commute 3-4 times out of the week.
I was just seeing if that's what's going seeing Dr. Gonzalez. I know he retired.
It's been a while since I've seen him. I retired, it's going to be 4 years ago. And that was
How's school?
probably one of the last times that I saw him.
Took a test last night. Barely got it in on time. We had to go to Mejia for a funeral this weekend, and
Yeah, we read, well, you know,
took her due after that.
one of the ESI or maybe.
Hard to have a life, isn't it? Work
I don't know, he's gonna retire.
and do schoolwork.
Had his second grandbaby.
I'm making it.
Not aware of that.
I'm ready for
Very nice
Christmas,
man.
though. It's gonna be a nice break. Might be hard to go back.
Someone that, when he was at La Salle.
I've already got a list going of everything I need to get done.
And we had the
You know,
same
cleaning out
special ed
closets,
block.
cleaning out
Special,
drawers, you know.
Special.
Well, your
ed
kids are a
block.
good age to
And we
help
would
you
do-
then.
Kayla
That's
does
where I got to
fine.
know
It's
him and
the
work
little
with him and all
one.
that.
and then she doesn't want to go in and help
Then I found out
him.
that he was from
But
Brownsville.
she
God.
redid the whole pantry over intercession,
Continued
so I was thankful for that.
I lost
Like, I
track
just
of
need
him
help.
somewhat when he came up here to Tulsa. And,
Well, you know, it's really
then
good
I caught up with
experience
him.
though for your kids to have to do things,
Oh, yeah.
because they see that you're studying and that's a good model for
He
them.
went to Michigan.
And then they have to help. I mean, it didn't hurt anybody to redo the pantry.
No, not at
taught her
all. She had time.
organization skills.
That's right, that's right, and she's got them, so she needs to use them.
He had quite a story of his
So-
upbringing in Mexico.
No, they're good
I was
kids.
really proud of
They do
him.
laundry and
Rest
everything.
his education.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
I believe kids should learn how to be self-sufficient. So when they get out of high school, they know how to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
My nephew had a roommate in college
How's
that
COVID down in the valley?
didn't know how to
A little
close up a
surge?
bread sack, and it was
You know,
most
when we did it in
irritating
July-
being
It would go bad.
to be, yeah, have to live with this guy that, you know, his mama took care of him. And, you know, and so my nephew would
Right now,
go
it's
back to the
pretty
dorm
settled.
room there, the bread would be all
There's very few
exposed. He'd go,
cases that are being
what is
reported.
wrong with you? You have to
Handful,
tie it
both
off.
in
Or at least knot it or
generally
Yeah, do
something.
something.
County and Hidalgo
But don't
County.
just leave it open in the
Because
air.
Carson has trouble with the,
Hopefully
what
everybody's
do you
getting
call
their
it?
vaccine.
The metal,
Well, I sure hope
the
so.
tie.
Little tie.
Yeah, he has trouble with that. He can't get it tight enough. I'm like, just put a knot in it.
I don't know how much
So
resistance there
he can
has
put the
been.
knot in it and he's good with that. I said, don't tighten it so much that mama can't get it open.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I don't know why you would not get it.
No, they're learning to help, but
It's just
That's
mindset.
good.
Kayla could tell I was pretty stressed last
Mindset.
night, and I went in last night to brush my teeth, and she had left a picture of me and her when she was little, and I thought, oh, that sweet girl.
And all of them have been cleared.
So she'll do that, she'll just leave both of them, or Carson will draw something and leave it for me, not where I'm expecting to find it.
Yeah.
He's nice.
Somewhat.
Yeah, because I mean,
Box.
they're not getting the attention that they normally get.
I don't know.
You know, I'm missing things, I'm not being able to be the mom that they're used to.
My daughter's and son-in-law nurses during this COVID thing. It's been a mess. Taking care of these people.
Only 2 more semesters after this
Most of the
one.
people are sick now from COVID and ICUs are
The
unvaccinated.
Christmas vacation will be nice.
You're all going somewhere?
Yeah, I
No,
have several
got too much to
relatives who are,
do.
that are nurses. I have a nephew that's a doctor.
We'll probably go, I'd say we won't go
He's
anywhere.
real
We'll go
careful
up 3 or
about
4
everything
days to
that
see
he
my
does.
in-laws in Oklahoma.
I tell you,
other than that, we
it's
won't go
been
anywhere.
hard too, along with the
Except the dearly
kids and teachers.
priorities.
Yes.
First responders.
Gotta get some meat.
I don't eat it. They do though, all of them eat it.
You took my plate, did you take my plate?
Your husband did.
Yes, sir.
No, no, I'm not this kind of gentleman. I'm a younger group.
Yeah, remember we're generation, what are we, X?
I get going into the presentation and
See, now you have an excuse to misbehave.
Yeah, I'm not listening to you, I'm sorry. Just because you know what you're saying, I'm not listening.
That's a mindset.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I get mixed up in all the generation. I like baby boomers.
Why, you forget what year you were born? Why, because you forget what year you were born?
That needs to come into play on that.
What's
When
that?
they pull up their driver's license, that's when you know you got
They're
problems.
starting to lose their memory. Baby boom. You don't know what year you were born.
I got a kick out of Dr. Sikora was presenting when, what was it, I brought you into this world?
Take you out
You
of this world.
I used it, I would use it with my son quite often. Son, I brought you into this world, and I can take you out of it. And not only that, your mother and I will get together, and we'll make another one just like you. So,
I didn't know the second part.
Yeah, I had never heard that part.
so when his little brother was born, about Charlie must have been 7 or 8. So when his little brother was born, they looked at him. He said, "Oh shoot, he can do it."
That's when you said, I told you so.
Yeah. All right, skills, ability to share. I collaborated. You're not sharing.
Yes, sir. Come here, come here. There it is.
Ability to find common ground. I will take some pie after the meeting.
All right.
Common ground, okay? Ability to negotiate, okay? And again, negotiating is, not the way my wife negotiates. My money is my money and your money is my money. That's not negotiating. Negotiating is give and take. Okay? Mindset. This is obviously out of the wrong sequence. This is what I talked about before. Most of our so-called reasoning consists of finding arguments for going on believing as we already do. Right? I'm trying to justify my beliefs. Ethical behavior. Everything we say and do represents a choice, and how we decide determines the shape of our lives. You know, think of the old proverbial fork in the road. I'm gonna make a choice. If I go down this road, it's gonna take me one way. If I go this road, it's gonna take me another way. Everything that we decide, every time that we make a choice, okay, determines the shape of our lives. And we do a lot of that. Okay. This next little deal is, it's about people making choices and lessons that they learn from the choices that they make. Okay? What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to show you the lessons that they learned, and I want you to give me más o menos, more or less, how old the person that's learning this lesson is. Okay? Here's lesson number 1. Goldfish don't like Jell-O.
That's your little ones.
They see you swimming in it.
That's your little ones, probably what, a 5, 6, 7-year-old? Okay. If you drink a Coke and laugh at the same time, it comes out your nose.
That's a middle schooler.
That's middle school.
Early teen, preteen or so, maybe. To have a good friend, I must be a good friend.
That's a life lesson there.
We should have all learned that one a long time ago. I would say a teenager, maybe. I have lived to regret talking my mother out of taking piano lessons. Okay? My regret, when I read this one, my regret is, goodness, I should have taken more fine arts classes. I should have practiced how to sing. I do a lot of singing between here and the valley. I'm alone in the car. You know, wouldn't dare sing in front of anybody else. Dancing, I wish I had taken that square dancing seriously when I was in elementary. Maybe learn some steps, how to shuffle my feet, develop a little bit of rhythm. You know, I couldn't carry a tune if you put it in a bucket, man. You know, so
I'd spill it.
most important. Oh, wait. How old do you think that person is? I have lived to regret talking my mother out of taking piano lessons. When do you think you realized that?
Adults?
Yeah, 25 plus, somewhere in there.
You don't have a mother, so. Talked her out of taking piano lessons. Looking at an adult, between 35, 40, maybe. I would give all that I have if my children were small and in my lap. I'm almost there myself, you know. Where you wish you had that to go. I can't sit them on my lap right now, so they're pretty good size. Your legacy and activity, what do you think people will remember about you and the team of 8? In your packet, you have a handout that says legacy on top. Looks like this. Okay, just an outline. What I want you to do is just think to yourself and about what legacy you want to leave behind. with everything the way that it is here and now today, what legacy do you think the students would remember you for? What did he do? What did he accomplish while he was on board? What did this board accomplish? What would a recent graduate of Toloso Midway High School say your legacy? This is what the board did, this is what the board accomplished. What would a parent say? Okay. What would a parent say about the board? What would a district employee say? What would community members who do not have children in school, what would they think? What would they say? What about the business and industry? What do they think about Toloso Midway graduates? My sister-in-law, when she was in high school, went and tried out for the band. Well, when she graduated from high school, we went to college together. And she went and tried out for the band at Texas, used to be Texas A&M at the time. And they asked her what school she was from. When the director heard what school she was from, he said, "You're in." She didn't even have to audition because of the reputation of the band program and the band director at the school that she was coming from. That was their legacy. That's one heck of a legacy to have. If you played in that band for 4 years, I know you're ready to step into my band. Okay? Do the business and industry around Toloso Midway say, he's a Toloso Midway graduate? Hire him. Hire him. Okay? What's your legacy that you want? Your legacy as an individual and your legacy as a team member. Okay, I need a volunteer who wants to tell me what legacy you would like from a student.
I would like to know that I put students first in my decisions.
That-
And
that all-
give it to the students.
That your decisions were based on what was best for the students, okay? Of a recent graduate,
They were prepared for college.
that they were ready to go. My son took a class, his senior year, English 4, and he said that class prepared me for college better than the last 3 years that I had. Okay? And it had to do with a teacher, and that's the legacy that that teacher had, because I had him too. So I knew what kind he was, okay? What about the parents? What do you want the parents to say?
Know that we were always focused on their children and making sure they got the best education.
Okay. Very good. District employees?
I am valued and appreciated.
Okay. Community members?
Taxes are low.
That's big for them. Business and industry? Kids ready for the workforce? They're prepared for the workforce, yes. I think that in this year, with COVID and everything, I think that a lot of people will look back and see, what did our board do? What did our superintendent do to take care of the issue of COVID? How did they handle it? How did they protect us? What did they do to help us and help us succeed? And not only in keeping safe and healthy, but also in the instruction that was delivered. Was it fulfilling? Was it worth it? Okay? Assessment. Okay? I gave you a test at the beginning. Okay? Now, we're going to check your work. Okay? But let me tell you a couple of things here that you need to look for. superintendent proposes, recommends, and the board adopts. Like a bride and a groom and a fiance. The fiance proposes, let's get married, let's do this, let's do that. But when you're bride or groom, you say, I do, and it gets done. Okay? Superintendent proposes a change in the salary schedule for teachers, and you say, I do. I agree, let's do it. Okay? So as you look at each one of these indicators, think, is it the fiance proposing, or is it the groom saying, I do? Okay? So let's go over them real quickly. Number 1, board. Number 2, superintendent. Number 3, board. Board. The next one is superintendent, superintendent, superintendent. The next is board, board, board. The next one is superintendent. The next one is board. The next one is board. The next one is superintendent, board, superintendent, board, superintendent, superintendent, board. How many hundreds? No hundreds? Okay.
If you were going a little slower, I would have made 100.
Being honest.
Yes. Being honest and resourceful. My brother used to tell the teacher. My brother used to tell the teacher, well, how do you expect me to help? I mean, to pass. I need to sit next to Freddie. If I sit next to Freddie, I'll pass.
Just a little slower.
Yes, okay. Let's talk about the framework for school board development, okay? And that is also in your packet. I'm not going to read this to you. I will provide it for you so that you, on your leisure, can go through it. But I do want to point out the fact that these were redone and they were rewritten 2 years ago. Okay? And they were adopted for that state board SBEC. Okay? And it's basically, I'll read a portion of the preamble. The mission of public education system of this state is to ensure that all Texas children have access to a quality education that enables them to achieve their potential and fully participate now and in the future in the social, economic, and educational opportunities of our state and our nation. Basically, what they're saying is, we want all the kids to be educated the same way, the same manner. And since y'all are at the top of this district, we need to make sure that y'all know, first of all, what is the public education system of the state? It's our TEKS. Our TEKS spell out everything that needs to be taught. Our STAR test will test how well you have taught those TEKS. Okay? And what this framework does is it provides a roadmap for you guys to follow in making sure that the TEKS is taught and the STAR is mastered. Okay? In prior years, they only had four indicators. Okay? The first one, vision and goals, only used to be, I believe, goals. Okay? Didn't talk about vision, just talked about goals. The second one, systems and processes, you should talk about processes. System was not part of it. The third one, progress and accountability, we only talked about accountability, the end result. There was nothing about progress. Are we making progress? We have goals, but do we have progress measures to see if we are reaching that goal? Okay? At the end of the year, I want to be at 60% students achieving mastery, but in the middle of the year, I'm at 20%. Is that likely to happen? Probably not. Okay? And that's why you have progress measures in place. Number 4, advocacy and engagement. I believe advocacy was the only one. Advocacy means you advocated for your district, you know, putting out those things that are happening, those good things that are happening, and staying away from the negative. Okay? Yes, we know the negative happens, but we gotta highlight, you know, the good things that are going on. And I'm sure that there's a lot of things going on. The glass is half full, and that's what you have to show, even in times where you're going through difficulty. Number 5, synergy and teamwork. Number 5 was added. And this is where the teamwork comes in to play, the board and the teamwork with the superintendent. Okay? This is a brand new one, and this is why it's been mandated that you receive certain amount of training in order to attain these. Speaking of training, go to your next handout. School board training requirements. Okay? You have here what you are required as far as training. Your first year, you're an experienced one. Every 2 years, you know, there's something, it's ongoing. It doesn't stop. You know, like we said, even the most experienced board members have to take additional training. Okay? And this is the outline that provides you the information on that. Okay? I want you to do a real quick evaluation. And it's this form here. Okay? I just want to take this and compile it and see where you are, and maybe, yes, sir, that's the one. Just score yourselves as a board. This will tell me how you feel, and what else do we need to do in order to change that. Comments are optional. If you want to write in some comments, that's fine. And I'm okay if it's anonymous. You know, if you don't want to put your name on there, that's okay. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and compile it and see where there may be areas of concern. And, you know, so I need some feedback from all the board members. You're done. Can you sign in, please? Because this is sign-in sheet. Just pass it on so that we can get everybody.
I didn't sign in either.
Could you switch me over to the other, please? This is just a matter of doing them up. screens. It scares me when I see it. That worries me when I see
Here's my-
screens on the left and screens on the right.
So we did this one, that was chapter
I'll sign it.
Sorry. Get back. You have to wait, now you have to go around, you're writing too much.
There's a sign-in sheet going around, and please sign in. Even if you're not a board member, your name is not on there, just write it in on the bottom. The more people that sign, the merrier, so appreciate y'all signing in.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, here we go, let's see.
Is that our initials? Where's the stamp?
I gotta say, he has
Your glasses on though, right?
That's what it is.
I already did. What?
That's the same. Did you initial it? Right here. Initial here.
Okay, y'all
Have
ready?
your glasses either?
I just saw Steven circulate and I just kind of circled.
I didn't know what I was
We
doing.
even have sound effects here today, so.
Sign it, initial, I didn't know what was supposed to be done.
Evaluation.
You're Alex.
Did you have trainer?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I might fit it.
I don't think it was,
Reminds me of Cassie,
Oh, yeah.
when they were playing.
Okay, we're gonna play some Jeopardy. We're gonna start with our board president. Mr. President, I need for you to select a category, how much? Y'all know the process, y'all have done. Oh,
I'll be a
boy.
high roller.
He's gotta get closer, oh boy.
damn it, he's got glasses.
Rolls 300.
Dan, you need to get on doctor.
Hey, you need to go get to the doctor.
He said rolls,
You can't get his.
Oh, you still
Oh,
haven't
you
got.
get your
I can't
prescription
get a
taken.
new prescription till November
rolls for
19th.
300. Here's your question, Mr. President.
Rolls?
Rolls.
Uh-oh.
Not dinner rolls.
Board may conduct elections on behalf of the district. After an election, the board must blank results as required by law.
Post them, one thing, you gotta put them.
He says post them.
Huh? I can't. Canvas. I can't read it.
Okay, let me see. It's a little tricky with the mouse here, trying to find the. Okay, Vice President, who's the Vice President? Mr. Landine?
Yes, sir.
Jeopardy, which category? Duties, closed session, open meetings, rules, roles, ethics, or other?
Just pick one, three.
I don't know any of them.
Duties.
Duties for how much?
What's up there?
For 100, 200, 3, 4, or 5?
500.
Big spender, big spender.
That's easy money for us.
The superintendent has to ensure two things regarding the student code of conduct. What are they? The superintendent must ensure two things on the student code of conduct. What are the two things that he must do? Or, Mr. Vice President? Is the music going?
See, well, look, doing that.
He's eating his pie.
They're so cute.
Let's pass this off to the superintendent. What are the two things?
What are the two things?
One, superintendent has to make sure we do it, it's done.
And next, the president has to make sure that superintendent gets to that.
Okay? Adoption. Superintendent has to make sure that the student code of conduct is taken to the board and it is adopted, and then he or she has to make sure that it is enforced. Now, we talked about having some real nice policies and stuff on the shelf.
You could turn the other way, that other one's closer.
Who's next? Secretary?
I'm gonna do a closed session for $100. Let's try to make it easier.
These other ones are
Here we
hard.
go. Closed session for $100.
Cheap, that's real cheap.
Name one allowable reason a board may enter into executive or closed session.
Personnel issues.
Personnel issues. And it is,
That's $100. Let's see. See, I get to go.
Okay,
Yeah.
and two more.
Gee,
personnel is right there.
A bunch of,
That's why it was only worth 100, because you
That's
had 11 answers, 11 possible answers.
You got one right.
Got one right, see? There we go.
Okay, let's go back to home
so
here.
we're only negative $500 now.
Hey, I'm up $100. They're all losing.
Who's next after the?
Actually, negative
do we have
800.
do we have
Jan,
another
Jan?
officer?
Jen's next, she's
Those were
assistant.
200.
Rolls for 200? Okay. How often does a board appraise, evaluate the superintendent?
Annually.
Annually, she says. Bingo, annually.
That, good Jan.
Who's next?
How much is that? To the-
John, you're next.
My last name's S.
I'm new. I'm a
You're next,
newbie.
Boone.
okay, if we do it alphabetically,
Boone.
Benavides,
Benavides next.
You got seniority.
Benavides is next. Go Benavides.
Seniority.
Gotta go with seniority.
I'm gonna be like Felix. I'm gonna do other for 500. We gotta catch us up because we're on the negative.
You were bad.
That means you're going to Whataburger.
That means we're gonna go for broke here.
All teachers must have blank approval before the superintendent can recommend or the board can hire. All teachers must have blank approval before the superintendent can recommend or the board can hire. They probably should have said that all teachers must have the blank's approval before the superintendent can recommend or the board
I'm gonna
can.
say the administration.
Okay, can you be a little bit more? We're
The
gonna give him
principal, the principal.
There you go, principal.
Principal approval. Yeah.
Yeah, the principal.
Oh, look at you.
12 years, I knew I learned one thing.
You know, a lot of people forget about this, but the principal has the final authority as to who's gonna work on his campus.
Yep.
Okay? As a superintendent, I may want to move one teacher from one campus to another, but if the principal has the right to reject or not accept, you know, that recommendation, you know. Of course, as a principal, if my superintendent is telling me I'm gonna put so-and-so, yes, ma'am, and who else? So,
You might be at the other campus too.
that's right. Or I'm gonna end up at the other campus. Who's next?
I'll take open meetings for 200.
Open meetings for 200.
I'm going 500.
Board meetings must be held in a location that is accessible to the blank. This includes all media representatives.
The community?
Public,
To the what?
Community, public, community.
Okay,
public, community.
to the public.
We're gonna give you 50 points.
Where are we now? Are we still negative?
And we're positive. money.
Oh, good. Watch me mess this up.
I'm emailing you guys right
Let me
now,
do
so-
ethics for 100.
Ethics for 100.
400?
What was it?
100.
100. I will be continuously guided by what is best for all of the district.
Goodness, that was,
Students.
I think I mentioned that about 20 times today.
that is so you.
The students, okay?
I think you said that exactly.
I did.
Let's go, Mr. Court.
Let's go to our administrators, you know, let's include them here.
Yeah, Dr. White.
Okay.
Yeah, let's check out the administrators.
this is,
Go for broke, man.
Let's do Duties for 300.
Ooh, yeah, big
He's the
roll.
only one getting paid here. This is his money.
Sounds good, anyway.
The superintendent must consult with the blank as regarded in TEC 11.252F.
Board president,
Oh,
board
I'll
president.
give you a hint. It's a group of people.
DEIC, the district committee.
There you go.
SBDM. That's what I wanted to say, but the two blanks threw me off.
what is it?
The DEIC.
Yes, District Committee.
District Committee.
Yes.
Education.
Good job. Who's next?
You're ahead, Dr. White.
We'll do open meetings for 300.
Open meetings for 300. Board meetings are conducted according to the parliamentary procedure found in blank.
We're down 300.
We're back to the green.
You've been hit.
Opportunity.
Robert's rules. But that doesn't fill in all the blank.
Isn't it the open meeting, but it open meetings act?
Rules of order.
Or you could say the public open meeting.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Robert's Rules of Order.
Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes. I sat on a board with a guy whose name was Robert, and he thought it was his rules. All right, that's not the Robert we're talking about here. Who's next?
Open meetings, 400.
Open meetings 400.
I'm gonna see which one pick Chrissy picked.
A meeting may not convene unless a blank of board members is present in the meeting room.
Quorum.
It was a gimme, right?
Give her that TEC one.
Quorum. Back to the president, or do we include?
I think the secretary, come on. She's sitting there hiding.
Oh, Lord, here we
You
go.
should know all these answers.
Put her down for duties. There you go.
Come on, Chrissy.
Duties for 100.
Duties for 100.
Who picks the board meals?
Who is responsible for the meals of the, no. Who is responsible for the management of the day-to-day operations of the school district? You know it?
The queen bee.
She-
The queen bee
She
over
wants to
here.
she wants to say Dr. Sikora, but she really knows that she's the one doing it.
She called her Queen Bee. There it is. Superintendent.
Superintendent. Back to Mr. President. We've had everybody, right?
Yeah, we got her.
Hey, stop being in denial, get your bifocals.
I can't go, I had cataract surgery, I can't go back for my next prescription till the 18th. How about
You wanna go?
duties for 100?
Duties for 200.
200.
No, 100.
It's already been
Whatever
done.
it's
called.
You can't see.
We're working on the red ones.
I believe it.
Now he's
I
another
did
one.
100.
The
200.
Oh, blue ones are gone.
Yeah, roles for 100. Rules,
No, the
rather.
blue ones are
rules.
gone.
Rolls.
Bells for 100.
Roles.
Rolls for 100.
Roles.
Yes.
Rules.
I can't even my glasses.
Who is responsible for the development of a vision statement and comprehensive goals for the district? Who writes a mission statement? Who comes up with a mission statement, and who writes the comprehensive goals for the district?
The goals, board, thing.
She writes.
The correct answer is the Board of Trustees. Okay, that's your duty, that's your responsibility.
Yes.
Board, see.
Mr. VP,
Mr. Landine.
Yes, sir.
you're up.
Mary, but.
It's coffee time. Should have made us a coffee.
Not for very long.
Okay, I know what we're doing now. Let's go to duties, 400.
Duties, 400. The superintendent oversees compliance with the standards for school facilities as established by whom? Who establishes the standards for school facilities?
Board of Trustees.
His answer is the Board of Trustees, the Commissioner of Education.
Oh, the commission.
Yes. Okay. Next.
Let's see, let's do closed session for 2.
Closed session for 200. What are the 2 options for future verification of the topics discussed in closed session? What are the 2 options for future verification of the topics discussed in executive session?
No action or vote?
The key word here is future, the key words is future verification. In other words, in the future, how can I verify what occurred in executive session?
Oh,
A certified agenda or a recording?
All the things you do.
a tape recording. No, we don't tape record there.
Okay, well then you
We should.
keep a certified, you keep a certified agenda.
Certified agenda, yes. To be opened by,
Next,
Okay, I'm gonna try other for 400.
other for 400.
You help me.
That's what you were gonna do.
Daily dose, y'all got the daily double.
Daily double, oh my God.
Here's the question.
Uh-oh.
You gonna wager all of it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Negative anyway.
Sure, why not?
Why not?
Take her to Vegas.
It's like a slot machine, just take it.
Take it.
Look, you got the right answer.
I missed this. No, this is not it.
Oh, that's easy, the superintendent.
Okay, which one had you chosen?
400.
400.
The 400, the daily double?
Yeah.
Or is it just a freebie, just forget the?
That's free.
There was other?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was blank.
Okay.
Still blank.
Oh.
There we go.
ethics for 300.
Yeah, you can't go backwards, you have to start all over.
Yep, I could choose something else.
Just pick the 300 one. That's close.
See, it was blank. So you got it right, see?
I'll go with the 300.
Hold on.
I think the daily double just gave me $800, so.
Where'd you get that candy
So you gotta walk around,
If there's any
girl.
candies left, look at all those in there.
You gotta walk around, girl. Shit. Gotta know where it's hidden.
Did you eat them all?
Don't follow him on trick or treat.
Oh, thank you.
What month does the
The
board
other
president
cruise is
generally
really
announce
nice
the
to
number
me.
of training hours
That one
each
over
board
there.
member has completed for the year?
December.
She was the miller, I can't get away
December
with it.
to November. December.
I got it.
Ooh, Jed, you might be back at 0. Let's do,
Daily double.
let's do duty, let's go ahead and close out duties for 200.
Duties for 200. The superintendent must prepare, submit to the board for approval, and administer this financial document.
Budget.
Budget. Yes, sir.
Okay, I got 2 in a row. So then we might actually let me back in the house.
Well, let's go with the open meetings for 500.
Open meetings for 500. Board meetings are open to the public. What involvement does that allow for from the public?
What is, what?
Open meetings are open to the public. What does that mean? What involvement does the public have in your meeting? What can they do?
They can, well, they can attend.
What of it? And? What else can they do?
They can speak in, what do
They
you
can
call it?
speak in open forum,
Yeah.
exactly right. They can attend and speak only during public forum time if the board allows. You know, you had asked me about what do you do if someone is going overtime and all that. Remember that this is a public meeting and not a meeting of the public.
Right.
You know, this is not for you to come in and conduct your business, you know, here. This is our time. You can attend it, but you don't control it.
It's a meeting in public, not a public meeting.
Next,
Ethics for 300.
ethics for 300. I will encourage expressions of different opinions and listen to and blank to the other ideas of others, to the ideas of others.
I will encourage expressions
With
of
an-
different opinion and listen.
You will listen with an
Open,
Open mind.
Yeah, open mind to the ideas of others.
Open
Oh.
mind. Money.
Man, I'm on a roll.
Who's next?
Must have been the Smarties they ate.
Open meetings for 100.
Go give me some more.
The Smarties are working.
Oh, Patrick, you know that one.
The agenda for a board meeting must be publicly posted at least blank hours prior to the meeting.
72.
Se la sopló, un chamaco.
Chrissy wrote that rule.
72. Next.
Chrissy.
White.
Okay, let's do roles for 400.
Rules for 400. The board is required to adopt and set a blank each fiscal year as required by tax code. What do you say?
The budget.
Isn't
Budget.
it tax rate?
Tax rate? Budget, tax rate.
Chrissy?
Yeah. Okay, so I can skip me now. Go to the next. It's you, sir.
Excuse me now.
Chris, of course.
Okay, let's close out roles for 500.
Big money, big money. The board has sole authority to terminate only one group of employees in a school district. Which group is it?
Superintendent?
Group of employees. Group of employees.
Of the group.
The group, yeah. So that's anybody with a Chapter 21 contract. As a superintendent, everybody else is generally an at-will employee, and they can, be hired and fired, But if you have a Chapter 21 contract, which is a standard contract for most professionals, the board is the one that has the authority to terminate that. The superintendent can recommend that we're going to terminate so-and-so's contract,
That's what I was
but it's
thinking.
not terminated until the board votes on it.
It's not my turn again, is
So
it?
it's through superintendent recommendation then?
Yes, sir. And I'm glad you asked that question, that's a very good point.
It's back at you,
If the
sir.
superintendent doesn't recommend it, you can't act on it.
Right.
I told her to take.
You can't say, we're gonna get rid of the coach, well, that's not the
It's past my
superintendent's recommendation. Okay, the recommendation has to originate with the superintendent. Okay? Well, maybe not originate, because sometimes your principal will recommend it, and what we did when I was in the HR department, you're recommending non-renewal for this individual, you want to terminate their contract. What documentation do you have to sustain that recommendation? Okay? If you don't have any documentation, I'm not going to take it to the board and say, we want to let him go because they're not a good teacher. What documentation do you have to show that they are not a good teacher? Okay? So it should be accompanied with some documentation. Next. Chrissy?
Other for 100.
That's mine, I was going.
Oh, I'm sorry. Other for 200.
Other for 200.
Oh, there we go.
I don't think the other
I
has.
think it's tired.
Board meetings must be held in a
That we
location
got
that is
it.
accessible.
Did I mess it up?
Yeah.
I don't think other has anything.
Yeah, others,
You had other for 200?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A local district orientation session must be given within blank days to new board members.
90 days?
90 days.
Or 60 days?
60. You turned the six around.
Is that what it is?
Upside down, yeah.
I just saw that, though. I thought it was 90 days.
It's upside down.
Or 90s and 60s all twisted.
other for 100,
Other for 100.
because I can't see it anywhere.
My involvement in a complaint or grievance that has not gone through proper channels may result in me having to blank myself if it comes
Accuse
before the board.
myself.
Recuse myself. Okay? That's why I mentioned to you about employees complaining to you. Mr. Vice President, Mr. Lundin.
Yes, sir. Ethics 200.
Ethics for 200. I will keep blank information that is privileged by law or that will needlessly harm the district if disclosed. Blank information that is privileged by law and that will needlessly harm the district if disclosed.
I think we're up.
Starts with a C.
Ends with an L.
What do you see?
Starts with a C and ends with an L.
Well, say the whole thing.
Can I buy a vowel?
Can I buy,
Confidential. I will keep confidential
that's what it
information.
was. Yeah, I said that.
Yes, I heard you.
My hearing is bad on this side. Next,
Let's go with other for 300.
other for 300.
Daily double.
Experienced board members must have blank hours of board training each year plus 3 hours of team building.
5.
6. No, 5.
I saw it in the middle.
Next,
Ethics for 500.
ethics for 500. I will respect the blank decision as the decision of the board.
Unanimous.
Majority.
Close.
Majority, unanimous.
Unanimous.
Next,
John?
On the ethics 400.
Ethics for 400.
I shall promote the blank of the district as a whole. I shall promote the blank of the district as a whole.
I guess I didn't need a smarty for that one.
You giving us dub-dubs?
Give them some more, give them some more.
I shall promote the best interest of the district as a whole.
That's right.
You're still smart.
Closed session for 300.
Closed session for 300. Who may enter into closed session with the board?
Superintendent.
Superintendent. Is that the only one that goes in?
Be the attorney.
The attorney?
Oh, the attorney. And personnel, if we're in, if we ask.
HR.
HR.
It's a bunch of people.
What's the, I'm trying to remember the question, but basically, this is like, where does a 300-pound gorilla sit? Anywhere he wants to. So, and this question is anyone the board invites in. Okay? Now, you have to be careful that if you're inviting someone into the closed session, that person's presence has some reason to be there regarding the agenda items that are there. Okay? I would often go into executive session in Brownsville because we were presenting information regarding the termination or whatever of an employee. The information that I had to provide was pertinent to the agenda item that the board was addressing. So under those parameters, you can invite just about anybody into the session.
anyone the board invites.
Yes.
I guess 500 closed sessions. Like I have a whole lot of
Closed
choices.
session. Name the 3 criteria that must be met prior to the presiding office announcing the board is entering into closed session. What does the board president do before you go into executive session?
Who reads this big old long paragraph?
And that long paragraph tells you basically that you're going into executive session. And it gives you the reason why you're going into executive session. But he also has to state why you're going into executive session. Okay, and in other words, the agenda item, identify the reason for the executive session. And first and foremost is, you gotta take a quorum into executive session. You cannot operate without the quorum in executive session. And if one board member, let's say you only have 4 present, and one of them leaves executive session, then you cannot continue with your executive session because you don't have a quorum in there. Okay? So that's a freebie. Quorum of members, announce board is entering into executive session, and then identify the reason for closed session. We're going to, for consultation with an attorney.
That's why it was 500
You know, so those are the three reasons. And,
Closed session 400.
okay. When the presiding officer announces the board is entered into closed session, he or she must state what?
Time?
How many of these did you eat? I need to eat that many before my next exam.
Legal reason.
Oh, dude, I was wrong.
We just answered that one.
1.010.
Right.
Yes, that's basically citing the statute that allows you to go into executive session. Folks, thank you very much for your time and attention and for your participation. I do appreciate your participation, and you have a evaluation of the workshop with me. Give me all 10s, it only goes to 5, I'm kidding. Okay, but no, seriously, I would appreciate any feedback, positive or negative, that way we can improve on the presentation that we have. This concludes my presentation.
And I have 2 more hours. We were going to cover board operating procedures, but we'll have to come back to that at our next meeting, which is November 15th. And then we had board self-appraisal. The board self-appraisal is simply you read through each item, and at the end of that block, you put the check in the box as to whether or not you think that you are proficient or not. The middle ground is the proficient one. That means that's where you should be functioning. But we'll do that next time, because there simply isn't enough time. You've spent your 3 hours with us this evening, and I really appreciate each one of you coming and participating. I think it's been enjoyable.
Yes.
Thank you, Carlos, for coming.
We don't have homework.
Yeah, we need to tell them to make sure that they read over this. I would like to make sure that everyone, make sure that you go over the board self-evaluation, look at it. It has to be adopted, correct?
Well, we already adopted the form, but if you could go through and read it and mark yourself, you read the whole section, and then exceptional, proficient, and needs improvement. So where you mainly need to be is proficient. That should be your answer. But if you think you're doing a super duper job, then it's exceptional. And if you think you need improvement, then you would mark the needs improvement. And at our next meeting, you will go into marking this in closed session together and talking about it. On our schedule, we have November 15th, discuss board evaluation in closed session. Take form and bring it back marked for the December 13th board meeting. But you need to meet and talk about it together. I do not take these up. This is simply for your information as a board.
Plus, go over, make sure you go over the board ethics and operating procedures as well.
Yes.
Because we need to look at that as well. That might take a special meeting. Okay.
Yeah, we'll take some time.
Yes.
Thanks for my smile.
We do appreciate you very, very much for coming up from the valley to take care of this time with us. We appreciate it very much. It brings so much important points to us that we need to be cognizant of or understand, and that we need to, there's a lot of things that we all have to say. We learn something new every day. We need to work on it every day, which is always important. Mr. Core, is there any further business?
No, I think we need a motion about adjourning.
That's why I'm asking. There's no further
Thank you.
business. Do I have a motion for adjournment, please?
I'll make the motion to adjourn the
John
meeting.
seconds, and thank you all for being here. All those in favor?
Aye.
10:07 p.m.
My personal responsibility.
November 1st.
I've done that before, and like I told you,